Hello everybody and welcome to Chicago as we get up and ready to go for the NASCAR Chicago Street Race. Denny Hamlin though first out on the pits as we've gone green. We've gone to yellow as Denny Hamlin is out. His car has spun and he is stalled and there is smoke coming out of it. Let's go straight down to the track.
Happened with the machine over in turn number one.
Make your voice heard. We need Congress to pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act to keep AM radio in cars. When internet and cell services are out, AM could be your only lifeline. Text AM to 39179 and tell Congress to pass this critical legislation now.
The message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
At the Glen, the thrill isn't just on the track. It's in the heart of every fan. This August, a full-throttle festival comes to upstate New York. Camp under the stars, then witness the brightest stars of NASCAR battle for a crucial playoff spot. This is racing. This is the best weekend of your summer. This is the Glen. NASCAR weekend at Watkins Glen, August 8th through the 10th. Get your tickets now at theglen.com.
back at the Chicago Street Course under the red flag in relatively short order here. Not even a full lap of practice complete. We're under the red flag. Denny Hamlin having a problem on the racetrack.
Denny here won the pole position for the inaugural Chicago Street Race just a couple of years ago. But his results on road courses as of late haven't been all that good. Only one top 10 finish in his last 18 road course starts. Chris Wilner hanging out down in the pits. You guys were basically just kind of getting settled in as the cars went on the track. Now you got to figure out what happened to Denny Hamlin.
That's exactly right, Alex. The crew for Denny Hamlin was just getting the radios on their heads and some of the communications linked back up when suddenly they looked stunned, just about as everyone has down pit road at the problems for Denny Hamlin. I checked in with competition director Chris Gabehart, who, of course, was Denny's crew chief the last decade or so with Joe Gibbs Racing until this year. He mentioned the fact that Denny came over the radio and said it's something in the bottom end of the engine, like a crankshaft or something of that nature. Also talked about some of the fluid that was deposited around the racetrack. We saw some of it on the NASCAR TV screens coming out of the headers. So something amiss with the engine for Denny Hamlin. Again, very bizarre this early in the session. Barely got that Toyota up to speed. And this has also caused a ripple effect down the Toyota camp for Joe Gibbs Racing with Christopher Bell, Chase Briscoe also in this opening group. They have repeatedly been asking questions of what could have transpired to cause that engine to go. So not a great start for Denny Hamlin. That crew down here now starting to pack up and head back to the garage. Well, they'll have the tedious task of getting a replacement engine in or possibly getting the backup car ready in, and we'll see what happens later on this afternoon in qualifying. So issues for Denny Hamlin, bottom end potentially of the motor, the diagnosis from Chris Gabehart and the team.
Alex, Chris brings up a great point. If you're in that JGR stable and you see that happen to one of those cars first lap out, you got to be on pins and needles hoping you're not next.
You do, and some of those cars may not have even hardly gotten up to speed, if at all, getting on the racetrack. There's only been 5 drivers to even make a lap attempt already, but that's just something that they're going to have to work with, and when the track goes green again here soon, they'll have to fill that out, and you got to know that they're going to be on extra high alert, just trying to pay attention to what their engines are doing. Back to the pit lane, Steve Post is also down there as well. Steve?
Well, extra high alert, especially as you mentioned, Alex, for the Toyota teams, because that is an alarming situation with Denny Hamlin, but extra high alert now for the other teams, because Denny Hamlin's car put some fluid down, and fluid in turn number 6, which is one of the more treacherous braking zones. Listening to the conversation of Shane Van Gisbergen, he, along with Stephen Doran, his crew chief, their game plan is, when this track goes back to green, letting everyone out and roll and being the last car out, give themselves some margin, give themselves some advantage, where if there is some fluid down on the track, for lack of a better term, someone else finds it, and they don't find it. So a lot of concern down here from all of these teams, and this concern comes from the point of, let's give Denny Hamlin credit. He didn't hit anything. I mean, you get off step, you get off cue here at this racetrack, and you're going to hit something. And, yeah, I know the engine failed on the car, but the engine failed, and he could have stuffed it in a safer barrier or a wall because things are so tight here. So nobody wants to take any chances. Add to it maybe some fluid on the racetrack, and that has got everybody down here on high alert as we get ready to put cars back out on the speedway.
And, Chris Wilner, I'll bring you back into this. You know, normally when we race these cars, there is traditional infrastructure set up as far as garage stalls, garage areas, and all that. But now we're on a much different setup in the garage. That will be an impact as well, just the infrastructure to do all the work that needs to be done.
You're absolutely, Mike. The teams have their pit timing stands here. They're kind of condensed versions. They're not the actual pit boxes that we'll see come race day tomorrow on Sunday. They're a little bit more of a compact mobile unit. So not only do you have limited resources here, the location of the garage area is outside the racetrack, and the only way to get there is by going through the cutout off of turn number 12. Now, the race car will be towed back to the garage area, but these teams now are going to have to negotiate their pit stands back and some of their resources outside the racetrack. So instead of just simply turning around and walking behind pit wall and heading back to the garage area that's typically at most of our circuits on the Cup Series schedule, it just adds the time that it's going to take to get them back organized and back refocused to make the adjustments and the changes to Denny's Toyota. So Denny is still down here. He's actually climbed onto pit wall, talking with Chris Gabehart as well as Coach Joe Gibbs has made his way down to pit road, just trying to figure out what exactly happened. But certainly a lot of concerned faces down here as the team starts to pack up and, like I mentioned, make the trek all the way back north off of turn number 12 and outside the racetrack, I should say, where the garage area is for the Cup Series.
Again, this is the first of two 25-minute practice sessions. This is the Group A cars that have this opportunity. As of right now, Mike, the clock is continuing to roll. We haven't heard from NASCAR yet if they're going to add time to the clock or not. That could be huge for everybody else on their lack of practice, potentially, as we're just down to 12.5 minutes to go here in Group A. From the NASCAR Chicago Street Race, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
NASCAR Live isn't just Tuesday nights. On Thursday, we go wide open with some of the sport's biggest legends.
Dover's so good that even concrete couldn't ruin it.
And some of NASCAR's rising stars.
I don't like getting drove in the back of, and I honestly don't like doing it. But you're not buddy-buddy with everybody, and I've had to learn that.
NASCAR Live Wide Open has you covered from the rookie class all the way to the Hall of Fame. Subscribe now wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hi, folks. Kyle Petty here. I want to tell you about a place that's dear to my heart, Victory Junction. It's a year-round camp that gives kids with complex medical and physical conditions life-changing experiences that are fun, empowering, and always free for families. Please help Victory Junction. Support kids who need it the most by making a donation today. Any amount will help kids attend camp for free. Help make a difference by visiting victoryjunction.org/donate.
And I like the bus that says Fife, I think Fife FM is there an advert on one of the buses. Fife's best sound. So yeah, it's a long way from home, that particular bus. But they have been
still under the red flag as cleanup continues from the Denny Hamlin expired engine, just beginning practice here. 21 drivers here in group number A, or group letter A, to get out and run here in this practice session, including Will Brown. We'll talk a little more about Will in just a moment. Austin Hill, Corey Hine, Josh Balicki, Daniel Suarez, Riley Herbst is going to be in this group, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Josh Berry, Chase Briscoe, and others.
Austin Cindric add to that list along with Noah Gregson, Todd Gilliland, Shane Van Gisbergen, the driver that's on everyone's tongues these days to win this race. William Byron's there, also Ross Chastain, Justin Haley, John Hunter Nemechek, Cole Custer, Denny Hamlin, and Christopher Bell. They are the 21 cars that make up Group 1 of this qualifying and practice session.
Well, as we sit waiting for track to be cleaned up, let's go back, check in with Steve Post.
Track is cleaned up. Cars are now rolling down here. Ryan Priest. Ryan, this is not how we scripted the start of it. The good news is you're in Plan B. What's your make when you see someone have a major engine failure? What are you going to be watching as these cars work around the racetrack?
Well, for me, being in Group 2, you want cars to be out there laying rubber just to help keep working the tracking because it's going to constantly change. So that wasn't exactly what I think we all wanted. And obviously they didn't want, but I still feel really good about being in Group B and having the opportunity to see if these guys what they're struggling with and what to really be probably conservative to start, because there's no room for error here, as we saw earlier.
Great qualifying run in Mexico City. What can you bring from that to the similarities, and what are concerns, what are differences between that and here?
Yeah, I feel like, we've definitely, I feel really confident in this BuildSubmarines.com Ford Mustang, and when it comes to road courses, we've just been getting better and better. So I look at this race, Sonoma, Watkins Glen, as opportunities to try and win. I feel like our road course stuff is really good. So, for me, Mexico is definitely a real confidence booster, and I felt like we ran really well. So we'll try and carry that over here this weekend in Chicago and see what we can do.
That's Ryan Priest. Looking forward to some good things here on the streets of Chicago.
He is 23 points below the cut line as we have 8 races to go in the regular season. That team, Alex, has been on the verge of winning. You marvel at what they've been able to accomplish. It has been a situation in the past that when a team adds a third car, that third car labors in the first season. Everybody trying to get chemistry established, everybody trying to get the notebooks up. But what Derek Finley and Ryan Priest have done in that third car at RFK this year has been remarkable, even though the wins have not been there.
No, it's been clearly, and I'll stand up and put my hand in the air to admit to it, one of the biggest surprises. I did not anticipate this at all, the type of performance they've had on every different type of racetrack that we've gone through so far in the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. So, tip your cap to Ryan Preece and that entire team, Derek Finley, the crew chief. They've really done a nice job. It's not out of the realm of possibility, Mike. I could see this team getting to victory lane this year.
Right now, NASCAR has put 10 minutes back on the clock. So we've got a little under 18 minutes to go for Group 1, and Alex cars have returned to the racetrack.
They have, and they're beginning to make their way around the course. Again, we were delayed because of a problem with Denny Hamlin. Chris Wilner.
Yeah, Denny Hamlin sitting here behind pit wall. Not the start to the weekend for you guys. Was there any warning on the potential motor failure?
No, we hadn't even gone up to speed yet. So, no, I just started to accelerate out of turn 4 and just grenaded it. I mean, I don't think I've ever grenaded one running 40 miles an hour and 55,000 RPM before, so obviously something's wrong.
Obviously, you guys will diagnose it later on, but what kind of deficit does this put you at now, missing an entire practice session?
I mean, I got to start last. I get to have no reps. It's been weeks and weeks preparing to come out here and get a good result. Now it just puts you at a huge disadvantage. So I don't know. I don't know if it's on the JGR side or Toyota side, but obviously I'm running out of patience.
Appreciate your time. Denny Hamlin going to talk more with the crew, but visibly frustrated here, missing a ton of practice today. They're going to try to get that car ready for tomorrow's race.
Certainly understand the frustration for Denny Hamlin because of no practice time. As we got another car, it looks like Chase Briscoe has missed a corner, and he's going to have to put the car in reverse. Kept it out of the tire barrier, apparently, over in turns 3 and 4. But, Mike, there's frustration there, but for Denny to just now say on the air that his patience is running thin, that's a broader stroke of the paintbrush to me, as opposed to just having an engine failure here today.
Well, I think it's a peek behind the curtain. There obviously are frustrations a team goes through over the course of a 38-race campaign, the 36 points-paying wins, the 2 exhibitions. Now, you can make the argument that, well, things are going good. Look at all the wins that they have. But when you look at what they've done lately and what Denny's been able to do, remember, he missed Mexico City because of the birth of his son. But when you look at what Denny's done on the racetrack here in the last handful of races or so, it hasn't been as tough sledding as obviously they wanted to be. 31st in wrecking out at Atlanta. Runner-up at Pocono. Didn't race Mexico. Won Michigan. Then you had a 3rd-place finish at Nashville, a 16th at Charlotte, 2 DNFs before that. It's not the steady, fluid campaign out of that progressive Toyota that we're used to seeing.
Feast or famine, and that's kind of the inconsistency of that team. Keeping in mind, we just heard in the report there, Chris Gabehart used to be Denny Hamlin's crew chief, has been elevated now to help oversee the competition side of things at Joe Gibbs Racing. Chris Gale is crew chiefing for Denny Hamlin now. Very capable, very smart guy, or he wouldn't be in that position. But you got to wonder, is Denny a little frustrated with the shuffling that's going on with his race car specifically, as opposed to what's going on as a whole at Joe Gibbs Racing?
Right now on the racetrack, we've got 15 minutes to go for Group 1. The quickest, William Byron. And he is atop the leaderboard over Ross Chastain, Shane Van Gisbergen, Noah Gregson, and Riley Herbst. 19 cars are on the racetrack of the 21 that make up Group 1. From the NASCAR Chicago Street Race, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
NASCAR fans, get ready to feel the rush. The official NASCAR Tracks app is your ultimate race day companion. From managing your event tickets to navigating with wayfinding maps, event schedules, and facility info, it's got everything you need to make your experience unforgettable.
Ready, green flag, green
Bring
flag.
your headphones and dive into the action like never before with live scanner access.
Got a race to win, my man.
Listen in on driver and team communications at select NASCAR Tracks. Download NASCAR Tracks now on the Apple App Store or Google Play.
The year was 1993. The NASCAR Cup Series season kicked off with the Dale and Dale Show at the Daytona 500.
Dale Jarrett's got the lead. He goes to the inside. Earnhardt's not going to get him. Dale Jarrett is going to win the Daytona 500 by SDP. Earnhardt second.
The 1993 NASCAR Cup Series season. All the highs and lows. Relive them all on MRN's exclusive podcast, The 1993 Season. Available on podcast platforms and MRN.com.
back in Chicago. 13 minutes and 15 seconds remain for Group 1 in practice for the Grant Park 165. And Alex, no surprise, Shane Van Gisbergen has just gone to the top of the leaderboard.
He has, and Trackhouse, as a matter of fact, has gone 1-2. Ross Chastain has gone to the number 2 spot now. William Byron is third fastest. Christopher Bell fourth. That's going to shuffle up because we got a new name, not just in the top 5, Mike, but a new name here in NASCAR is just going up there.
Will Brown. That is a name to a lot of you that you've never heard of before. Will Brown is actually from the Australian V8 Supercar ranks, and he's racing, obviously, this weekend, and he's racing with Colleague Racing. Let's get the inside skinny about Will Brown with Steve Post.
Will Brown, a champion down there in the Supercar ranks down in Australia with where he races down there and has, I think, 11 wins in that tour. He made his first start in NASCAR at Sonoma, but that one certainly didn't go the way he wanted it to go and had a bad day out there on wine country. Really wanted to set this up and have a good combination. He reached out to Richard Childress, who then reached out to Ty Norris at Colleague Racing, and they were able to put this deal together. So this is a Colleague Racing car that Will Brown is racing. Right now he is P6, it looks like, as they roll around the racetrack, and he's very happy with the car. They just want him to get comfortable with the race car and a little bit of bearings around the racetrack. They just told him go 2 more laps. Now, chatted with him a little bit earlier and asked him, street course wise, it's new to us in NASCAR, but you deal with it down in with the Australian Supercar Series, and he said this course reminds him of Adelaide, which is one of their storied racetracks, and Gulf Coast, which is a track where he won a big race a couple of years ago. So the street racing is not nearly as foreign to him, and he is just now getting used to the NASCAR, this generation of race car, and they want him to go another lap just to get comfortable with the race car. But Will Brown, going to be fascinating to watch how he advances, how he grows, how he learns. Not sure that they expect a Shane Van Gisbergen kind of debut like he had a couple of years ago, but I think they are pretty close to where they want to be right now.
This is the second career NASCAR Cup Series start coming up for Will Brown. He did run on the road course in Sonoma, California last year. Did not get the result he was hoping for, however. Finished 31st in that race, but it was a ton of experience for Will Brown.
So just put yourself in Will Brown's shoes for just a moment. You've gone from racing Australian V8 supercars and basically being the big fish in the small pond there. You come all the way here to the United States. You're racing in a different race car. You're racing for a different race team. And by the way, you're racing on a street course where there's no guarantee, there's no expectation, right? Expectation as far as what you can expect that the car will do. You don't know what the car is going to do. There's so many nuances and nuances that he's dealing with. For him to be right now where he is on the board inside of the top 10, to me, that in itself is an accomplishment.
It is, but the extra pressure, I think, gets put on his shoulders because coming over from the Australian V8 Supercar Series 2 years ago, Shane Van Gisbergen did the exact same thing and won here at Chicago in his inaugural start in this first race. So there's an expectation level now that these drivers that come over to do this, especially here at Chicago, with Shane Van Gisbergen's success that he had 2 years ago, there's an expectation that they should be able to come up and compete and lead laps and potentially get your way to victory lane.
Right now, Will Brown is 9th on the leaderboard here in Group 1. 9 minutes, 35 seconds remain. You talk about Will Brown, a name that not a lot of folks have heard from. He's going to make a start here this weekend. Well, also in the field is a driver that's been dominating the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, winning to the tune of 5 times so far. Corey Heim is back with 2311 Racing. An update on Corey with Chris Wilner.
Making his third Cup Series start here this year, Mike. It's also a special day today. It's his 23rd birthday. What a birthday present, getting to drive a 2311 Toyota around the streets of Chicago. And you mentioned his road racing success and his success in the Truck Series. Talked to Corey a little bit before he climbed aboard that 2311 Toyota. He said all of those road racing victories have each been different. Some have been dominant. Some they've had to really work over the course of the weekend on the race truck. He said all that experience battling either adversity or just maximizing on a really good day has helped him prepare for running this car, his first ever road course start in a Cup Series machine. A lot of sim work has gone involved. He's leaned on a lot of drivers, but Corey has never been more confident going into a Cup Series race as he is this weekend on the streets of Chicago. So certainly will be a one to watch. And you guys talked about the pressure of Will Brown coming aboard and running his first Cup Series race. For Corey, he's one of a handful of the open teams that have to qualify in to make this race. Remember, we're sending one driver home, one team home here after qualifying later this afternoon, and I know Corey does not want to be that driver watching tomorrow's race from the timing stand. So Corey Heim looking to maximize on his Cup Series opportunity again for 2311, and a special happy birthday to him today.
You mentioned the open cars, and let's talk a little bit more about that. If you're relatively new to NASCAR, what that means is cars that don't have a guaranteed spot in the field buy via a charter. Now, here this weekend, drivers that must qualify in on speed will be Will Brown. Austin Hill for Richard Childress Racing has got to do that. Josh Balicki has got to try to do that with Garage 66. Mentioned Corey Heim with 2311. Catherine Legg from Live Fast Motorsports is also in that mix as well. That's going to have to try to get in on qualifying, which will be coming up here in just a little while.
Now that is a gut check right there, because most of the time when everybody shows up, everybody's got a starting spot. Somebody's going to go home, and somebody will not be able to participate here on Sunday.
And that brings even more pressure. You got to go out there and find the edge. You got to find the limit of your car and the street circuit itself here in practice. But if you push it too hard and get into the wall or cause yourself a problem, qualifying's right after practice. You may miss qualifying, and if you're an open car, you're not going to be in the show. So there is a very fine line that these open teams are having to toe right now.
And these are the stories inside of the story. If you're just joining us, lap 1, Denny Hamlin blows his engine. He's going to miss the rest of practice. He'll have to start at the back of the pack tomorrow. Then we've gotten Cup cars on the racetrack, giving them some more time. We've got 6.5 minutes to go, and there's a new name at the top of the leaderboard. It was Shane Van Gisbergen. Now William Byron of Hendrick Motorsports has gone to the top. Basically, a 91-second lap around this 2.2-mile road course has put Willie B atop the leaderboard. Shane Van Gisbergen, Noah Gragson, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, the top 5. We've got Ross Chastain in 6th, Corey Heim in 7th, Todd Gilliland in 8th, Will Brown 9th, and John Hunter Nemechek in 10th.
I look at this top 10, and there's a name that kind of jumps out at me, and that's Noah Gragson. For a moment, Gragson was the fastest car here in practice. He's been shuffled back now to the number 3 spot. He's run 5 laps in the practice session, has Noah Gragson, but to see Noah come out here today in this practice session for Front Row Motorsports and put down the type of lap times that he's been able to do, that's opening some eyes, including my own. He did have a top 10 finish earlier this year at Circuit of the Americas on the road course down just outside of Austin, Texas. So it shouldn't be that big of a surprise, Mike, but given the names that are in this group, like a Logano or a Briscoe or Cindric, he's up there in 3rd right now.
Well, what surprises me is with Noah sitting 3rd on the leaderboard, you've also got his Front Row Motorsports teammate in Todd Gilliland sitting there in the 8th position. So those Front Row Motorsports Ford Mustangs operating very well. Of course, Zane Smith will be going out in Group 2.
As cars continue to practice here, this is Group A. We've got 5 minutes remaining. Now, Kurt Becker, you're positioned out turns 3, 4, and 5. We've seen a handful of drivers in this practice session overcook it, if you will. Heading into turn number 4, Shane Van Gisbergen just did it and had to back his car up. It's a challenge over there in front of you.
Well, it is, because this is one of the fastest portions of the course heading to one of the slowest. When the cars get onto Lakeshore Drive, you mentioned turn 3, Alex. Yes, it is turn 3, but it's quick. It's almost just like if you picture a normal back straightaway, just with a slight quick kink thrown into it. It is a quick right-hander, so there's still a lot of momentum and a lot of speed by the time the field reaches the end of Lakeshore and then has to make the right-hand turn onto East Roosevelt Road. There's a very narrow gap to point the front bumper. So especially during practice, if you've got somebody to your right and you're going door to door, or if you're just carrying too much speed off the end of Lakeshore, you're going to err on the side of caution. There is a runoff area just beyond where Lakeshore at turn number 4 turns on to East Roosevelt. So a number of drivers, Chase Briscoe is one. Justin Haley is another. You mentioned Shane Van Gisbergen. They've all been trying to deal with that fast to slow. Even a former winner like Shane, he's getting reacclimated, if you will, during this practice.
Of course, Kurt giving us the texture of turns 3, 4, and 5. And, Dave, once they ace all of that, if they're able to make it through that part of the course, Then they come to one of the more interesting courses, which is turn 6, smack dab at your feet.
Case in point, Noah Gregson, who's now third on the chart. He had a good run going about a lap ago, came thundering down into turn number 6, overcooked it, locked up that right front tire, and came within about 3/8 of an inch of burying that car in the tire barrier. So, as you mentioned a minute ago, for some of the open teams, not just for them, some of these teams have to decide, do we push for just a little bit more and take a chance on dinging up the race car, or do we satisfy ourselves with a good top 5 or top 10 practice run and look on into qualifying? Close call a moment ago, but Noah Gregson got away clean.
Ryan Blaney's just gone to the top 5. He's up to the 4th position. Right now, William Byron is the fastest. Shane Van Gisbergen certainly is fast. He's second quick, and Steve Post. Noah Gregson, third fastest.
Yeah, and listening to Noah Gregson talking with his crew chief, Drew Blickensderfer, they feel really good. He said the car on the first run drove really, really good. They came in, made some adjustments, and the car lost speed. And why it lost speed is it was a little bit of a rougher ride, especially turn number 10, which is coming out of the Fountain Plaza, a right-hand turn. And the cars just hopped down there, and Noah did not like what the car did. Now, the team is also looking at the SMT data, which is all of the satellite telemetry data that they get from other teams, and Noah is using, and I think it was turn number 10, he was using second gear there, and they said the only other one using second gear there was Shane Van Gisbergen. So it's a learning process. I think we start with a foundation with Noah Gregson of a good race car. He felt really good about the car, didn't care for that last adjustment, but now they're fine-tuning, and when they are matching themselves up and going toe-to-toe on the SMT data with Shane Van Gisbergen, I think if you're Noah Gregson in this Front Row Motorsports team, you got to feel pretty good about it. And right alongside of him, the Grillo's pickle car comes in now. Todd Gilliland, not too shabby here. Last time I checked, he was in the top 10. So Front Row has a pretty good couple of teams here this week in Chicago.
Trouble for William Byron, the fastest car in Group 1 practice, has just come through turn 10, Alex, and gave the Jersey barrier a big old whack.
Yeah, he did. There are no safer barriers here. They're gigantic concrete barriers that are going all the way around this race course. That was coming out of turn number 10, out of the off of East Congress Plaza, back onto South Michigan Avenue, and the left rear of that car slid out, and he smacked that concrete wall and has done significant damage now to the left rear corner, including the suspension. The left rear wheel was pointing out when it's supposed to be rolling straight.
And Rudy Fugle and the crew are right now tending to that race car. It is a red and white car with All Pro on the quarter panels. And Rudy right now is not happy. I'm sure Williams not either. Because, Alex, this has come at the worst possible time. If they can't get that car put back together, they got to go to a backup. Either case, they can't test their wares before they go back for the race start tomorrow. And if they do have to go, either for unapproved adjustments or to a backup car, they've got to start this race tomorrow at the back of the field, joining Denny Hamlin, another driver that's had problems in Group 1.
We talk about those concrete walls that have been placed around this course. 2.2 miles is the length of the race course. Those walls are on both sides, driver's left and a driver's right. Each one of those walls weighs 10,000 pounds, so we've got approximately 25 million pounds of concrete walls around this race course.
That is a lot of concrete, my friend. Red and black flags are waving in the start-finish line. Group 1 is done for practice for the Grant Park 165. William Byron, damage and all, is the fastest. Shane Van Gisbergen, Will Brown, Noah Gregson, and Ryan Blaney, the fast 5 from Group 1.
From NASCAR Chicago Street Race, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Go behind the scenes and into the garages of the sport's top teams and drivers on NASCAR Hot Pass.
You know, if you win, then your problems are likely solved.
There's going to be issues with track limits in the S's, right? Because they're just tight.
A normal occurrence is qualifying from 28th to 32nd. That's just something we're going to continue to keep on working on.
It's the latest information you want to know on NASCAR Hot Pass. Weekdays on the Motor Racing Network.
We're at the start-finish line.
William Byron on pole position. Green flag is out and we're racing.
We're in the turn.
Here to the inside comes Kyle Larson. He and Hamlin bump.
We're on pit road.
4 tires Sonoma Racing Fuel. The race off from pit road is Denny Hamlin. Eric Jones goes off second.
We are live from the track. The Motor Racing Network, your home for NASCAR racing. Don't miss a lap, pit stop, or side-by-side race for the win. Listen to all the play-by-play action on your local radio station and MRN or NASCAR.com.
We welcome you back to Grant Park, downtown Chicago, Illinois. It's also known as Chicago's front yard. What a setting it is here as the Group A practice is officially over. Group B drivers will be getting set to go on the track.
It is a doubleheader weekend here in the streets of Chicago. Of course, we are in the middle of practice and qualifying for the Grant Park 165. Later this afternoon, the NASCAR Xfinity Series will run the Loop 110. Shane Van Gisbergen and Austin Hill will start on the front row for that one. 4 p.m. Eastern Time, our airtime this afternoon. Hope you join us. And tomorrow, we are back for the NASCAR Cup Series Grant Park 165. NASCAR Race Day, NASCAR Live Race Day on the air at 1 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow.
So, a very eventful 25-minute Group A practice session. If you're just joining us, it started on the opening laps when Denny Hamlin didn't even get to turn 6 of this 12-turn road course and had the engine blow. He said he was only in, 4th gear at 5,000 RPM. Engine blew on that car. They're going to have to change engines. He'll start the race at the back of the field. They won't be able to get that task accomplished to get him out there to qualify. No laps for Denny Hamlin here at all.
Well, here's another ripple effect to that. Remember, he was not in Mexico City for the birth of his son. The last time Denny Hamlin raced a road course was March 2nd at COTA. And it was on that day that Denny finished in position number 21. So you mentioned that, while he has a tremendous skill set as a driver, his road course racing prowess has not necessarily matched what he's able to do on ovals, and there's a lot of gap in between when he's been able just to run laps on a road course and get into a rhythm.
One top 10 finish for Denny Hamlin in the last 18 road course races in the NASCAR Cup Series. You expect a lot more, quite honestly, and that's not a knock on he or that team. They expect more out of themselves when they come to turning both left and right in a NASCAR Cup Series machine. But, they have a challenge in front of them. They have adversity. You can't dwell on it now. Simply get back to the garage area, get the engine changed out, come back tomorrow and give it your best effort.
Well, I like what we're seeing from this course. It is really putting some of the best in the business through their paces. When we had NASCAR Xfinity Series practice this morning, had a couple of drivers getting in Dutch there with some of the barriers and some of the challenges of the road course. We've seen it in Group 1. Right now, Group 2 is just hoping to get through this portion of practice unscathed. They are getting queued up in the pits, and we'll have Group 2 cars on the racetrack coming up shortly. From the NASCAR Chicago Street Race, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Under the Saturday night lights at Richmond, there's no place to hide. Tight turns, tempers flaring. When the sun goes down and the sparks fly. Dreams of the playoffs live or die in prime time. 3 nights, 3 races, 1 shot at the best weekend of your summer. You better not miss it. NASCAR Weekend at Richmond Raceway, August 14th through the 16th. Get your tickets now at richmondraceway.com.
Hi, this is Mike Bagley. Join me along with the cast and crew of the Motor Racing Network every Tuesday night for NASCAR Live. Hear exclusive interviews.
It's my responsibility as a driver to leave the sport in a better place than it was when I got here. And certainly sometimes it comes with controversial takes.
The best moments from each of NASCAR's premier series.
They bang sideways at the line. Photo finish.
An in-depth breakdown to the latest NASCAR news and more. It's NASCAR Live every Tuesday night at 7 Eastern.
Welcome back to Chicago. We are in the middle of practice for the Grant Park 165. Group 1 is in the books. Group 2 about to take to the racetrack. And then once they get done with their 25 minutes, we'll take a brief pause, and then we'll send the groups out onto the racetrack for what will be a timed session, and the fastest will go to the pole and on down like that in a blended conversion of the two groups after the exercise is complete.
You know, Mike, let's talk a little bit about the event itself. This being the third year that we've had this Chicago street race, and some folks out there, let's face it, there's some naysayers around the NASCAR world, some fans or whatever the case may be, that says we shouldn't be doing this. Got to tell you, how impressive was it? Early this morning, walking over from the hotel, lines and lines of people wanting to get in to see action on their city park. It was truly amazing to see the gigantic lines of race fans trying to get in today.
We, as a total in the world of NASCAR, we get accustomed to things week in and week out. We get up in the morning, we meet for breakfast, we get in the rental car, we drive to the racetrack, we go to the booth or go to the pits or whatever like that. This is something totally different. You leave your hotel, and you basically, where our hotel is positioned, we walk south to Grant Park. We're walking along other teams, drivers, team individuals, and then once we get to the park, then that's where it opens up. That's where the lines come into play that Alex described. Once you walk in, there is a tremendous footprint inside of Grant Park that is right around Buckingham Fountain, and that's where fans can buy souvenirs. That's where fans can take a lot of pictures. There's a lot of activation for sponsors, but it's in those wide open areas where there's that fan engagement that we've been looking for. Alex, I talked about it earlier this week. I marvel at the fact that we do certain things week in and week out. We have picked that up and we have dropped it in the middle of a major metropolitan city without one hiccup, proving that this is a sport that's very nimble in how they present things to fans and where they present them to fans.
Give huge credit to NASCAR and to Chicago Street Race Track President Julie Giese, because today's ticket for a race fan, a general admission ticket, gets you NASCAR Cup Series practice and pole qualifying. It gets you the NASCAR Xfinity Series race coming up later today. It also gets you a full-blown Zach Brown Band concert on the front stretch here, where the fans can exit the grounds or the stands, walk right out on the front stretch, right on the pit lane where the Busch Light stage is right there. And Zach Brown Band's going to play a full concert for everybody. There's a heck of an event here and a heck of a lot of excitement. And Dave, that's just something that makes this venue unique.
It really does. There's nothing else like it on the circuit, Alex, not even close to it. You know, I'm standing here at the intersection, if you will, of turns 1 and 6 on this course. There are fans 10 or 15 deep in spots outside the fences. Over my right shoulder here, part of the park with 4 softball fields and tennis courts. Tennis courts, as a matter of fact, a couple of them in use right now. I don't know, maybe you play tennis between practice sessions at the NASCAR Chicago street race, but it's an atmosphere that is not duplicated anywhere else in the sport.
It is not. As we wait for the Group B drivers to get on the track, gives us a chance to step away briefly from the NASCAR Chicago street race. This is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
More than 200 members of Congress are standing up for AM radio listeners. The AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act will keep AM radio in cars, because when cell and internet services are down, this free service could be your only lifeline. Text AM to 39179. Tell Congress to pass this critical legislation now.
The message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
We are the voice of NASCAR.
The green flag is in the air, and we are underway. The Great American Race.
The Motor Racing Network. NASCAR Cup, Xfinity, and Craftsman Truck Series Racing live on your hometown radio station and MRN or NASCAR.com. Martinsville, Talladega, the Chicago Street Course. We have the side-by-side action and last lap passes for the win.
Photo finishes. Ryan Blaney will win.
The voice of NASCAR, the Motor Racing Network.
About 90 seconds away from putting the Group B drivers out on the race course for the first time today. They, too, will have a 25-minute practice session. Group B drivers consist of Catherine Legg, Austin Dillon, Kyle Busch, Cody Ware, Bubba Wallace, Michael McDowell, Ty Gibbs, Ryan Priest, Ty Dillon, and A.J. Allmendinger.
Kyle Larson's also in Group 2, along with Zane Smith of Front Row Motorsports, Carson Hocevar, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, Eric Jones, Alex Bowman, Tyler Reddick, and last week's Atlanta winner, Chase Elliott.
Noah Gragson was fast in Group A. He's 4th fastest overall right now. Let's hear from him with Steve Post.
Yeah, Noah Gragson is 4th fastest, but Noah, I see you looking at some tires, looking at a lot of data down here. How good do you feel about things right now?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how our rage car is this weekend. It feels pretty good to be able to just come out here to Chicago. It's a fun racetrack, and I always have a lot of fun. So I almost hit the turn 6 wall in practice, so that was, I would like to say a little bit of PTSD, but it was a lot of bit of PTSD, that turn 6 tire barrier. So I feel good about it. Yeah, we're 4th on the board. There's still a lot of time out there to get, but the pay window's not open yet. I don't want to help these guys put it back together, a backup car. So, we're going to try and go out there and qualify well, qualify up front. The car obviously has speed. It has the feel that I like. We've made a lot of improvements from last year. So, hats off to the whole Front Row Motorsports group. It's been a lot of fun, and we'll see what these guys can do here in round 2.
There we go. That is Noah Gragson, and the reference to put a backup car together, well, that's what they had to do in Mexico City when he wadded one up in practice, and thus far they have a good race car and not getting it into any barriers out there on the racetrack.
Well, and of course, Noah jokes about the PTSD here on the streets of Chicago. That young man went firewall deep a couple times in some tire packs in turn 6 a year ago.
Yeah, he did. Dave, right in front of you, he basically could get out and give you a high five.
2 different times. Yeah, I spoke to his crew chief, Drew Blickensderfer, this week, and we were hearkening back to that, and I said, Blick, I think I saw more of your driver last year at Chicago than you did. And he just kind of chuckled and said, yeah, but we're not going to do that again this year. So far, they put down some pretty fast laps, and okay, narrowly stayed out of trouble, but stayed out. That's the key.
Obviously, challenges for Noah Gragson a year ago. Let's catch up with a driver that's got challenges right now. He's with Chris Wilner.
He was fastest in practice. We're talking about William Byron, but did catch the wall out of the South Congress area. William, I know we haven't really had a time to look at the damage, but how much of that is pushing the car? What's the track conditions like in this heat?
Yeah, so I was leaving pit road after a change. I felt like my car obviously was quick, but then, I was getting my tires back up to temperature from pitting, so I felt like I was just starting to push there, and obviously pushed too far. Just had too much shape there into 10, and lost traction as soon as I turned in.
This racetrack obviously changes over the course of the year with how cold it gets in the winter months, but do you notice a difference in the track kind of characteristics, the bumps, especially in turn 4 and 5?
Probably the tire's the biggest difference. The tire doesn't have as much pace, or a couple seconds slower than Sim and what last year was.
That's William Byron again, fastest in practice. Crew's still hard at work on his all-pro Chevrolet on the left side after catching the wall.
He mentioned the different tire. There is, of course, Goodyear Racing tires that are a little bit of a different tire compound. It's the same one we raced at Mexico City and Circuit of the Americas earlier this year. So the teams know the tire, but to what William said, his point, Mike, their simulation on the computer is based off of racing here in the 2 previous years, which was a completely different tire. And yeah, they're running about a second a lap or so, maybe touch more, slower than what they did before.
And the biggest question is, how will that tire give up over the long run here? How will that tire affect if we have that long green flag run tomorrow? Even in practice today, that's where a lot of the knowledge is being directed, trying to get as much of that knowledge as possible, just trying to formulate a game plan about what to expect as the race conditions will evolve tomorrow. Speaking of race conditions, we have wet weather tires if we need them. Earlier in the week, the forecast was not looking the best in the world, thinking that we may be in wet weather tomorrow. Looks like the forecast has gotten better, Alex, and perhaps maybe we can leave those wet weather tires in dry dock.
Yeah, let's kind of put in perspective the lap times that William Byron touched on. William Byron put down a fast lap. His time was 1 minute 31 seconds and some change. Well, the qualifying record here set by Kyle Larson last year was 1 minute 27 seconds and some change. So they are significantly slower on this different tire that we have here this year.
Right now on the racetrack, Group 2 is underway. 21 minutes and 15 seconds remain, and the fastest of the Group 2 cars belongs to Ty Gibbs of Joe Gibbs Racing, 16th overall, but the quickest in Group 2. Michael McDowell's right behind him in 17th. Eric Jones is there as well, along with Chris Buescher, Zane Smith, and Brad Keselowski. It may take them a couple of laps. I mean, what we saw earlier, fastest lap times were coming anywhere between the 3, 4, 5, 6 lap mark, and these drivers now are just putting up their second and third laps.
Yeah, they have. William Byron, for reference, his fastest lap was his 7th lap. Will Brown was 3rd quickest. His fastest lap was his 9th lap. So, yeah, I think more the drivers get familiar with the circuit, the faster they're going to be able to pick up the pace. You mentioned Ty Gibbs being the fastest right now of the Group B drivers. He's 16th overall. Let's hear more on Ty Gibbs with Chris Wilner.
Well, Alex, when we come into this weekend, certainly a lot of eyes are going to be on Shane Van Gisbergen and what he's been able to do. But one of the drivers looking to challenge him this year has been Ty Gibbs. Very, very consistent here at the streets of Chicago with an average finish of 6th. He's led in both races, including having a shot to win last year. And before Ty climbed behind the wheel of his Toyota, I said, what is it about this place? You're not necessarily a road racing guy. He said, just running go-karts as a kid really instilled some of the characteristics and the mechanics of road racing at a young age. But he said really it's the credit to the team and the race cars that Joe Gibbs Racing builds and prepares for the streets of Chicago. They feel like they're the most stuck to the racetrack. They never really deal with really upset race cars over the bumps, and he just feels like that when you have a car underneath you like they've been able to bring the last 2 years, it's translated to confidence behind the wheel. So Ty Gibbs looking to replicate another solid performance. They need it as far as the points are concerned, but certainly coming to this racetrack, Ty has this one circled as another one they can go take the fight to drivers like Shane Van Gisbergen this weekend. So we'll see how it shakes out in practice, but certainly entering this weekend, this is the track he's had circled as potentially to get that first career win.
Let's go for a ride with Ty Gibbs. He is headed down the street right to the feet of Dave Moody in turn 6.
Here he comes into 6, hard on the brakes, down shifting all the way to the low gear, and he will accelerate again off turn 6, up over the bridge and on toward Tim Catalfamo.
Watching Ty Gibbs make his way due west down Balboa Drive into turn number 7, now working his way through East Congress Plaza. We're watching Ty Gibbs in his black Toyota swing his way through turns 8, 9, down into turn number 10, which is a right-hand corner. Now racing his way down South Michigan Avenue into turn 11, making a drive back onto Jackson and headed up to 12.
As he makes his way, he'll stand on the brakes for the 90-degree right hand, turn number 12. New driver is going to the top of the leaderboard, Mike, and it's a driver I don't think a lot of people expected to see there.
Bubba Wallace of 2311 Racing has just gone to the top of the leaderboard, 1 minute 30.951 seconds. That's 87.080 miles per hour. He's not the only one that's shot at the old leaderboard there. You've also got Michael McDowell, who in this group is 3rd overall. Then you've got Ty Gibbs, we were just speaking about him. He right now is behind Tyler Reddick. Group 2 drivers are coming to life.
Last week's winner, Chase Elliott, now in the top 10. He's up to the 7th spot. I think this is a product, Mike, of more rubber that was put down on the track from Group A drivers, that the track's got a little more grip in it right now for these Group B drivers as they work their way around here with 17 and a half minutes remaining here in the Group B 25-minute practice. Bubba Wallace and William Byron are the fastest 2 so far. From the NASCAR Chicago Street Race, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Looking for weekly motorsports podcasts to stay up to date on what's happening on and off the track? The Motor Racing Network is the place. Hear from NASCAR crew chiefs on MRN Crew Call. All the happenings from regional touring series and local tracks on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Sprint Car Talk on Winged Nation. NASCAR history on MRN Classic Races. And hear from the drivers on NASCAR Live. MRN podcasts available on MRN.com, YouTube, or your favorite podcast platform.
Now this is how you end a summer. Under the lights, surrounded by history. The driver's last shot at the playoffs. Your last chance to see regular season action. Friday night, Xfinity lights the fuse. Saturday night, the Cup Series delivers the fireworks. This is Daytona. This is everything. NASCAR Weekend at Daytona International Speedway, August 22nd and 23rd. Get your tickets now at DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com.
back here in downtown Chicago, Illinois. We've got 16 minutes to go here for Group 2 drivers that are on the racetrack right now, as the fastest continues to be Bubba Wallace overall.
And he set that lap on his third out on the course. Again, 1 minute, 30 seconds, .951, 87.080 miles an hour. The McDonald's Toyota Camry going to the top of the leaderboard again. William Byron, Ty Gibbs, Michael McDowell, and Carson Hocevar. Good outing for Spire right now. Out on the race course, Kurt Becker, looks like you got a car in trouble in front of you.
Yeah, one driver just slipped by to our left and moving down toward the East Roosevelt Road, and it is the car of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Now, here's the situation. There's no traffic coming. He was able to make use of the runoff, threw the car in reverse, swung it out into an arc to driver's left. Now he's back across East Roosevelt, off turn 5, and he's back on his way before anybody else got close.
That's good course planning to have a runoff area there, because we've seen a lot of drivers use that to their advantage right now. Bubba Wallace is on the track as he exits turn number 1, makes his way towards turn number 2. He'll slam on the brakes. He's chasing Alex Bowman and his 2311 Racing teammate. That's Tyler Reddick. That trio of race cars is on what we call the backstretch, headed to Kurt Becker in turns 3, 4, and 5.
Working their way up to 135 miles an hour on Lakeshore Drive, and now just as quickly under braking all the way down to 75 miles an hour. Bubba Wallace through turn number 4, the right-hander onto East Roosevelt, down to nearly 50 miles an hour through turn number 5, and he works his way off that corner and heads for 6.
That's a pretty good three-man tag team match. Alex Bowman into turn 6, about 3 car lengths back Tyler Reddick, about 3 more back to Bubba Wallace. All of them putting up good lap times right now, running approximately the same speed to each other.
All that traffic now coming out of turn number 7, turning onto South Michigan Avenue, working through East Congress Plaza. Again, we're watching Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, Tyler Reddick, and Bubba Wallace. They're all evenly spaced apart. They clear Congress, exit turn number 10, dive it into turn number 11, and head for turn 12.
Here they come out of turn number 12, watching Bubba Wallace bring everybody off that set of corners. And again, we've got a little bit of time left for others to make an impact, but right now it seems to be that Bubba Wallace is the fast car. He's not the only one. Speak of those Spire Motorsports Chevrolets, Michael McDowell is up to position number 4. Let's get an update on McDriver.
Michael McDowell, pretty happy with his race car. Braking in turn number 12 is where they're concerned, or where they don't compare as well to Bubba Wallace. And these teams have all of the data, all of the what Bubba did, what Michael did, and everyone else. And right now, into turn number 12 is where Michael is working on this race car. I had a chance to catch up with Michael a little bit earlier today, and he just was concerned about the no runoff room. He said, we've got to keep these cars clean. Track position is so important. It's so good. Everything is so good for Michael McDowell, and really good on road courses. He finished 5th here last year, and he finished 5th in Mexico City. So Michael is one of those drivers that feels like he's got a real shot to get a win this weekend, but part of that is making sure he doesn't do anything today to ding up his race car yet. And the challenge is that yet have a good qualifying run. Right now they feel good about it. They're just working on turn number 12.
He overall right now is 4th fastest on single lap speeds. Bubba Wallace remains the quickest. Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification on the Motor Racing Network. Motor Racing Network is live in Grant Park in downtown Chicago, Illinois. The NASCAR Cup Series practicing right now before we qualify here in just a bit. My name is Alex Hayden. Mike Bagley is alongside in the broadcast booth. Dave Moody, Kurt Becker, Tim Catalfamo out in the turns for us today and this weekend, with Steve Post and Chris Wilner on the pit lane.
If you're just joined us, you have missed a lot, my friends. Right now, Bubba Wallace is atop the leaderboard. William Byron is posted as second, but at the very end of his practice run in Group 1, he smacked the wall in turn 10, did a lot of damage to that Chevrolet. It remains to be seen if they're going to have to go to a backup car or not, but William Byron had a problem in Group 1. So did Denny Hamlin. As soon as the track opened for business, he wasn't even up to speed yet. He hadn't even gotten a full way through the gearbox, and coming out of turn 5, he basically hand grenaded the engine. They're going to have to go to a backup engine. He'll start at the rear tomorrow, and then we've had a handful of drivers go off course. course, including Justin Haley, Chase Briscoe, Shane Van Gisbergen, and the most recent to do it, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. All of those drivers coming to grief tackling turn 4. No damage there, but they had to employ runoff procedures, right their cars, and get them back onto the racetrack.
As they continue here in the final 11 minutes of the Group 2 drivers and their practice session, Michael McDowell continues to make laps out there. He's got a special livery and sponsor for this weekend. He's got the Blue Demons of DePaul University all over that race car. Beautiful car. You know, DePaul University's got a campus, just 2 blocks off of where we're racing right now.
Yeah, and I know that the alumni will be turning out in droves to see how, quote-unquote, their car will do. I love it when we get involved in other athletics, especially collegiate programs or collegiate efforts like DePaul University. We've done that throughout the year in years past, or throughout races in years past, I should say. And DePaul University teaming up with Michael McDowell and Spire Motorsports here this weekend in Chicago. Right now, Michael 4th overall behind Bubba Wallace, who continues to lead with 10 minutes remaining. From the NASCAR Chicago Street Race, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Looking for motorsports podcasts you won't find anywhere else? Check out the Motor Racing Network's lineup of exclusive podcasts. MRN Classic Races, Junior's Journey, The Many Hats of Jack Roush, Richard Petty, Road to Royalty, 50 Years of MRN, Jeff Gordon, A Colorful Career, and The Tough Trucks of NASCAR. Find these and more MRN exclusive podcasts on podcast providers and MRN.com.
Every hero's story has a humble beginning. Every legend had to earn their stripes.
Guys like me aren't supposed to do that!
Every superstar had a dream.
It's been a fairy tale season.
Every home track is the start of something special.
That's just good old short track racing.
Oh, a little retaliation.
Holy cow! Learn more about NASCAR regional tracks near you at NASCAR.com/regional.
Eight minutes and 50 seconds to go for Group 2 drivers in their practice session, getting set for tomorrow's big show here in Grant Park in Chicago. We heard in the very end of Group 1 drivers, the fastest driver at the time, William Byron, overdrove.
Trouble turn 6. Catherine Legg overcooks it on entry into the left-hand turn. Side slaps the tire barrier. Doesn't appear to have done a ton of damage. She refires the car. She's underway. I've been watching her the last few times into turn 6, and that car just gets really darty left and right under braking, and that time it was more than she could handle.
Well, I was bringing up William Byron got the wall and did some damage to the left rear of his Chevrolet. Now Catherine Legg gets into the tire barrier, backs it up. She'll be able to continue on. Chris Wilner, is there a problem with another Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet?
And potentially, Alex, your defending race winner of this event, Alex Bowman, just parked his Ally Chevrolet in the pit box. He came over the radio and said, I think I might have gotten a right rear toe link, slapped the wall just a little bit. Not sure where on the course, but there is indeed some cosmetic damage to that right rear wheel well. Some of the Goodyear lettering rubbed off the right rear tire. The crew has it jacked up on the right side. They're looking up underneath, looking up under in the wheel well to check the toe link. So a lot of haste going on here for Alex Bowman, who, again, coming in as the defending winner, spent some time with the media this morning and said there's something about being a race winner coming back to a facility for the second time after doing so and having that confidence. He felt like that this racetrack really was a springboard to the last half of last year. They felt like this point in the season, this is a good time for them to come to Chicago, and also talked about the importance of this session and going into qualifying, which will really set them up for tomorrow. So now a little bit on the back foot as they diagnose the Ally Chevrolet, but right now the crew hoping it's not a toe link, but they're again diligently looking at the Chevrolet trying to figure out what the problem is. But Alex Bowman certainly caught the wall here in this practice session.
So let's talk a little bit about Alex Bowman. 2 top 5s in the last 3 races. A team that's still looking for their first win. They right now, Alex, are in playoff territory. They are 15th of the 16 drivers. They are plus 39 to the good. However, with this 8-race slate that remains, one bobble here, one bobble there, they could find themselves on the outside looking in.
Yeah, but I also like the fact that what Chris Wilner just reported, they've got some momentum. They got a little extra bounce in their step when they came through the gates here today because they are the defending winner of this race. And heck, on road courses, the way the schedule works out here in the rest of the regular season, Alex Bowman's got 6 top 10 finishes in the last 10 road course races. So there is a comfort level, I would think, with Alex Bowman right now. What is also a story inside of that is Bowman, who just caught the wall, may have some damage to the car, struggling to hang on to playoff potential. But the NASCAR in-season challenge, we're in round 2 right now. Alex Bowman is going head-to-head this week with Bubba Wallace. And by the way, Bubba is the fastest driver in practice right now.
Well, we talk about Alex Bowman, his challenges here, but his successes of a year ago. Let's also start talking about a driver that, as well, shared success on a road course last year, specifically at Watkins Glen inside of the playoffs last fall. We're speaking of Chris Buescher, Steve Post.
Yes, and when you go to a road course in NASCAR and you go toe-to-toe with Shane Van Gisbergen and come up on the top side of it, you are proving your mettle on road course racing, and Chris Buescher is, and he has got the best average finish. I think it's something like 8.8 of this generation race cars. So it shocks nobody in the garage area that Chris Buescher went out and won Watkins Glen last year. So he was just really, really good, and he is very good on road courses. When we come to this road course, he is working on the race car now on the long run. He had a little bit of a trouble on the short run getting into turn number 3. That's over in front of the museum off Lakeshore Drive. Just getting down in there, he just wasn't comfortable doing that and gave up a little bit of ground. Now, while he was a little bit struggled down into turn number 3, they are now going on a long run, and on a long run, they feel really, really good about this race car. So Chris Buescher feeling really, really good, really, really racy. He is a driver that's not locked in. He's 52 points up. He's not on the bubble, but they would just like to get a win out of the way, and this is a really good opportunity for Chris Buescher, one of the top road racers in NASCAR, and we'll see what he does. Right now, very happy, especially on the long run, with his car here on the streets of Chicago.
Yeah, they want to win because go back 1 year ago, they were on the bubble trying to get in with points and ended up getting knocked out. They finally got their win on the road course at Watkins Glen International, but while that's a great feat in itself, it's too little too late as far as the championship goes. But Chris Buescher, yeah, in the Gen 7 race car or the next gen, Mike, he is phenomenal. 15 top 10s in 19 races on road courses. Average finish of 8.79 is the best of anybody in NASCAR.
And this is not an indictment on his skills or talents, but when I think NASCAR Cup Series road course racers, Chris Buescher's name wasn't on the list until like in the past year. You see him flex muscle on ovals and, mile-and-a-half racetracks, tracks like Michigan International Speedway, the 2-miler there. It is within the last year that he's really stepped up and he's really been able to maximize his day on tracks that turn left and right.
He is one of only 5 drivers this year that has top 10 finishes on both road courses we've had this year so far, which he had a finish of 7th at Circuit of the Americas, finished 10th in Mexico City. So it's just one of only 5 drivers to get those top 10s.
We've got 2 minutes and 45 seconds remaining in Group 2 practice for the Grant Park 165. Bubba Wallace is the fastest. Let's pick him up. He's just exiting turn 2 and headed up DuSable Lakeshore Drive.
Here he comes now. Bubba Wallace working his way back up to full song on what is essentially the backstretch of this layout. Now he has to set up for the entry back into corner number 4. Again, under braking, has to swing wide around the outside of the Ty Gibbs car. Clears him without issue. Already, Bubba setting sail back off of turn number 5.
Fastest car on the racetrack by only about a half of a tenth of a second so far, but you'll take first place any way you can. Here he comes, charging down South Columbus, now under heavy braking through turn number 6, right up next to the outside retaining wall, and back on the hammer as he heads for 7.
Bubba Wallace in his McDonald's Toyota, working his way now through turns 8 and 9. A lap ago, he came awfully close to clipping the wall, which is to driver's left through East Congress Plaza. Here is Bubba Wallace now coming into view through turn 8 into the right-hander in turn number 9. He's got about 5 car lengths over the driver behind him. That is the machine of Kyle Busch. Bubba Wallace is off turn 11.
Makes his way up the hill over the railroad tracks, and then he'll set up for turn number 12, which is a 90-degree right-hand turn, as he continues to stay on the track. You know, let's follow up on Bubba Wallace right now on pit road. Bubba looks like, with just a few minutes left in this practice session, that Chris Wilner, is going to stay on the track this entire session.
That was the plan, Alex, until just now. Crew Chief Charles and Ike said, why don't we go ahead and shut her down? Bubba has been pretty much radio silent this entire session, and we all know when a race car driver is not saying much on the radio, they must be pretty happy with the race car, and that's exactly what the team's telling me. Just making sure they got a good enough long-run gauge on where these new tires are at. Remember, the same tires we ran at Mexico City, but first time we have run them here at Chicago. So trying to get a gauge on where the wear is. Bubba did come down and say it was starting to get looser at the end, but other than that, this McDonald's Toyota has been pretty stout for Bubba Wallace, and that's good for him. He's been working really hard on his road course program. Remember that top 5 at Watkins Glen last year? Felt like a weight was lifted, showing that he can road race and be competitive. Now he's got a really good race car to boot. We'll see what happens in qualifying, but Bubba going to call this one short here as he's already climbed out of his Toyota.
Bubba Wallace runs this course well, and we'll see what he's got in qualifying later this afternoon and, of course, tomorrow in the race. You know, Alex, we've been documenting how drivers have been bouncing off the wall here, bouncing off the wall there. Well, NASCAR's most popular driver just has had an excursion as well.
Yeah, Chase Elliott hit the turn 4 wall on exit of the corner with the left side of his car. He's now the 3rd Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet to hit the wall with the left side of their car. Elliott there, will find out just how significant the damage is on his machine. We heard Alex Bowman and his team are changing the toe link on the left rear on them. And on practice number 1, at the end of the practice, William Byron hit the wall as well. We're going to follow up with the William Byron pit in just a moment when we come back. Practice for Group 2 has just wrapped up. Bubba Wallace is the fastest overall. From the NASCAR Chicago Street Race, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
At the Glen, the thrill isn't just on the track. It's in the heart of every fan. This August, a full-throttle festival comes to upstate New York. Camp under the stars, then witness the brightest stars of NASCAR battle for a crucial playoff spot. This is racing. This is the best weekend of your summer. This is the Glen. NASCAR weekend at Watkins Glen, August 8th through the 10th. Get your tickets now at theglen.com.
Want to know the latest with short track racing around the country? Well, one show has you covered, NASCAR Coast to Coast. Hi, I'm Chris Wilner. Join me each week as we break down the biggest headlines in grassroots racing and in NASCAR's regional and touring series. We'll also talk with rising stars from your favorite short track. Once again, it's NASCAR Coast to Coast, and you can watch or listen today on YouTube, Facebook, MRN.com, or on your favorite podcast platform.
Practice is wrapped up. Qualifying is coming up next. Everybody, with the exception of Denny Hamlin, will be qualifying. Maybe Chris Wilner, another driver, may miss qualifying.
That's right, Alex, and that driver is William Byron. Remember, we documented in practice 1 the big slap with the left side of the wall. In turn number 10, he came down. The crew was diagnosing what's going on with that Chevrolet. We'll just check back in with that Hendrick Motorsports team, and in fact, this could be a day ender as far as qualifying is concerned. There is pretty significant left side suspension damage, particularly to the left rear. They basically have the entire left rear taken apart. The crew right now just trying to get it to where it's drivable back to the garage, and that is where massive undertaking will go on to get this primary car rebuilt and ready to go. They will not qualify because the turnaround time is so short, but the plan is to not go to a backup car. So William Byron will start at the rear of the field, but the goal is to have this primary car ready to go tomorrow. So Rudy Fugle, this entire crew now hard at work just trying to get it able to to get back to the garage area off of turn 12 where they can spend the majority of the afternoon getting those suspension pieces fixed back up.
You know, it's amazing, Alex, how so many man-hours go into preparing these race cars, and they basically fluff and buff them with a fine-tooth comb. They bring them to the racetrack. You go out on the racetrack, you're doing your thing, you're getting the data, you're making your laps, and all of a sudden, boom, something happens, and that crew has to pivot at a moment's notice. And instead of plotting and strategizing how to make the car faster, they've just got to plot and strategize of how to put the car back together. And we've seen time and time again, while it may look like right now that it's a weekend ender for a car like William Byron, it's not. That is a very skilled bunch. You got the skilled driver, the crew chief, but there's also a lot of skilled men and women back in Hendrick Motorsports that are laying hands on that Chevrolet right now.
There is adversity that they're going to have to deal with, as with Denny Hamlin, who blew the engine early on as well. Drivers had a lot of success here leading laps, just not quite ready to, or has not been able to break into victory lane on the streets of Chicago, at least not yet. That driver is Christopher Bell. Let's hear from him with Chris Wilner.
And his Toyota was top 10 in practice number 1 as he talks to teammate Chase Briscoe about their race cars. Really cool paint scheme for Christopher Bell. The Craftsman scheme showcasing artwork designed by 10 patients from the Anna and Robert H. Lurie Children's Hospital here in Chicago. So really cool artwork on this Toyota, and the car's pretty fast. So what do you think about qualifying here after watching that second session, kind of getting some notes from your other teammates?
Well, I hope that I hope the track really gripped up, but I don't really feel that great about it right now. We're off of the Group 1 cars, the best ones, and then Group 2 really smoked us. So I don't know. It's perplexing, and we're not super good right now. But we normally race way better than we practice. So I know Adam and the engineers are going to put their heads together, and we'll be a lot better tomorrow than we are today.
I know it was a quick session. What did we learn about the new tire here? Obviously, we ran it at Mexico City, but this is a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah, it's slick. It's really slick out there. And, you know, years past here, it didn't really have much fall off, and the pace just continued to increase, and it's not that way today. It seems like it's really slippery for everybody out there, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot of guys sliding around.
Appreciate your time. Christopher Bell getting ready to climb aboard. He'll be in Group 1 for qualifying coming up in just a minute. That bright red Craftsman Toyota ready to go. But you heard a little concern in his voice, guys, about maybe not being where they want to be at this point.
Christopher Bell right now, 19th overall in practice. But, Alex, he's led the most laps here, 51 circuits. He has led the most of anybody in this field tomorrow.
That's what I was talking about. He's had good race cars here. We had a chance to visit with his crew chief, Adam Stevens, yesterday before the garage opened up, just walking around out on the front stretch, and had a really good visit with him. And that's some of the things he was talking about. Yeah, it's great to come here and lead laps. It's great to be in position, but doggone it, we want to finish and be standing there with the big trophy and the big check as well. So I think they understand the scenario. You can tell, certainly by Christopher Bell's comments, that they're a little bit confused right now. But I think that as a whole, we didn't have any rubber on the racetrack when the Group 1 cars went out there for practice. They continued to put rubber down. To our point earlier, their fastest laps came deep into the practice session, whereas Group 2 drivers went right out on a fully rubbered up racetrack and were able to lay down some quick laps.
Christopher Bell has gone to victory lane a total of 4 times this year. He had that 3 in a row at Atlanta, Coda, and Phoenix. And, of course, he won the NASCAR All-Star race at North Wilkesboro Speedway back in May. So we'll see how, Christopher Bell and everybody goes to work on their effort. What about the effort for Ross Chastain? Let's get an update on him with Steve Post.
Ross Chastain actually just jumped the walls talking to a couple of his crew members down here. I know they felt pretty good about the race car, did they, as far as that practice session goes. And Ross actually tended to a little bit of business in the cockpit of the race car. We want to make sure that all the drivers have everything of comfort they need. So we'll let Ross tend to that, and we'll see if we can catch up with him in just a little bit. So Ross Chastain, really been fun to watch here because of Daniel Suarez and Shane Van Gisbergen. Ross has really gone to school leaning on his teammates and really trying to learn from them on this road course stuff. But he is working on something in the cockpit of the car. We'll catch up with him somewhere down the road.
Now, Chris Wilner, earlier you reported William Byron will not qualify because of the damage to the left rear of their race car. You also reported that it's to be determined on Alex Bowman, the Hendrick teammate. What about another Hendrick car in Chase Elliott?
It's been a rough one for Hendrick Motorsports, that's for sure. Chase Elliott actually climbed out of his race car. We documented the right side damage, potentially suspension damage there after getting into the wall. Well, the crew just loaded up the car, and Chase Elliott, walking with the crew back toward the garage area, has withdrawn their car from this qualifying session. So more damage repairs going on for the Hendrick Motorsports camp, this time for Chase Elliott. Declined to comment on what happened, but is visibly frustrated as he decided to walk with the crew out on the hot side of pit lane and is taking that long walk back to the garage area. So a lot of work's going to be done back in the garage area while cars are on track and qualifying. But again, for Chase Elliott, what was a promising start to that practice session now ending with a failed opportunity to qualify.
You know, Alex, I didn't see all these challenges coming in. A lot of unknowns, obviously, when we race on this course, but I didn't see so many drivers having challenges in Xfinity practice and qualifying, and definitely not the Cup cars that we've seen. We are up to, about 7 or 8 cars that have had challenges in one form or fashion, and did not see that coming at all.
No, I didn't either, but one thing I've noticed by virtue of watching cars go around the race course in different areas, and then the benefit of NASCAR TV, it seems like the city streets here have gotten a little more weathered, and the fact that they're quite bumpy out there. And when the car bounces around, clearly they're losing grip. That may be creating some problems out there. Let's hear from another driver right now who just got done practicing, speaking of Chris Buescher.
Yeah, we've talked about Chris's prowess on road courses. Alex and Mike are in the booth. They're talking about the cars bouncing around. How has this course evolved since last year? Is it different than what it was last year with the conditions?
Yeah, maybe a little bit right now. It's a little slicker, but as far as the course layout goes, I feel like it stayed really consistent year to year. They did a good job with that. So a lot of things we were fighting last year. It's just on a little larger scale, but we're learning every time we come out here how rough this place is and how tricky it can be to get into turn 4, right? But proud of everybody on this bodyguard Ford Mustang. We got a pretty good piece under us. I'm pretty happy with where that went there. Looking for a little bit of long run pace to stay with it, but I think, it's a good start for us.
How do you balance long run pace, the risk of bouncing off the wall, and needing to qualify and get track position? How do you balance that?
Well, I bounced off the wall last year in qualifying. We had to start last, so that's not a risk willing to take here today. But you got to go fast, right? You got to get that position. I guess there's always the option of pitting under green here and not having the super congested pit road. So pit stall is always important, but maybe a little bit of leeway when we go road racing. So be smart here today, smarter than last year. See if we can put this thing up front. That'll put us up for a nice race tomorrow.
A nice race tomorrow. That's what Chris Buescher's hoping for. We'll see what happens. Chris also coming off from 4 consecutive top 10 finishes over the last 4 weeks. So a lot of momentum, and this is one of the one of the races they've got circled. We'll see what happens with Chris Buescher.
Well, you can sense the energy building with that race team, with that race car driver, Scott Graves at his crew chief. They're knocking on the door. Well, this situation this weekend, they obviously have a fast race car, and in the in-season challenge, Chris Buescher is going head-to-head with Zane Smith, and this may be a tighter head-to-head matchup than we all thought on the initial blush.
Yeah, I think so, and it's interesting that Chris Buescher, of the drivers remaining, is the highest seeded driver to get out of Echo Park Speedway last week. His head-to-head battle coming up this weekend with Zane Smith. When you go straight comparison about it, overall, Chris Buescher's finished better than Zane 12-6 times. When you look at the last 5 races, it's been closer than that. Buescher has the advantage, finishing better 3-2. But on road courses, forget about it, as they say. Chris Buescher, 8 times has finished better than Zane Smith out of 9 opportunities.
Yeah, this one may be there may be a lot of headwinds for Zane Smith tomorrow, just considering the recent successes of Chris Buescher and his recent love affair with running well on road courses. Right now, on the pit lane, we are getting ready to send Group 1 cars out. This will be a group qualifying effort. Each group will get 20 minutes. When we get to the end of that 20 minutes, we're going to put all of the times together, and then we'll know the starting lineup for tomorrow's Grant Park 165.
So 20 minutes begins right now. You have as much or little time as you want to go out there. Do you want to run one lap? Do you want to use it as potentially a second practice and run the whole 20 minutes? That's up to you right now, but you do have 20 minutes. So while the drivers, we wait for somebody to pull out on the racetrack, we'll go around the racetrack and bring in our turn announcers again, because we've talked so much about the setting here in Grant Park in downtown Chicago where this race course is, but there are some awfully famous landmarks and great scenery as well around this course. Starting over in turn number 1 with Dave Moody.
You just won't get a better skyline view than we get here in turns 1 and also turn 6 that butt right up against each other here at the Chicago Street Course. Either shoulder I look over, high rises, beautiful blue skies, just some puffy white clouds. We joked with some of the crew chiefs during the week about not really having a setup for dry weather racing here at the Chicago Street Course after the last couple of years. They're more than happy to do so here this afternoon, and we've just got a beautiful view, a lot of folks out enjoying the sunshine, a little bit of a breeze to keep them from overheating. Not much better day could be asked for here today here in Chicago.
No, you can't think of a better day either. I mean, yeah, it's hot, it's humid, but fans have come out in droves. Qualifying is underway. Some drivers are on the racetrack, including Austin Cindric, who's out there, Riley Herbst, Josh Bilicki, Noah Gregson, Todd Gilliland. They've made their way on the course as they begin to come up to speed. Landmarks abound over in front of you, Kurt Becker.
Yeah, that's for sure, Alex. We are positioned on Lakeshore Drive. As we face the skyline, we face the racing surface. But over our shoulder behind us, you've got Lake Michigan. The sailboats are out in force this afternoon. And also directly behind us, just across Lakeshore Drive, you've got the Shed Aquarium, which dates back to 1930. And you've got the Field Museum of Natural History, which actually has its origins back in the 1893 Columbian Exposition, the World's Fair, that took place here at Chicago. Both of those buildings absolutely magnificent. Got the neoclassical architecture design, the giant columns, the big facade over the main entrance. The campus is gorgeous. It is absolutely beautiful, as one would expect, being part of the Chicago Park District. It's got a terraced lawn. Folks today are out picnicking. They've got their bicycles. They're finding spots under shade trees. They're taking in a little history. They're slipping over to the Shed Aquarium, seeing some squids and some reptiles. And then as they turn and face the skyline with us, they face the racetrack where qualifying is underway.
Right now, qualifying is taking the green flag. Let's catch up with the fastest driver in practice.
That's Bubba Wallace, who just climbed out of his Toyota after that group number 2. Bubba, your car says I'm loving it. Were you loving this race car here at Chicago?
Yeah, I was. Just really proud of the effort and people continuing to push me to get better. And felt really comfortable leaving the shop and just going through all the notes and stuff to show up and do what we could do to start the weekend. So that was good. The difference for me is when you put race cars around, now it's a total different game, right? We can all go run a fast lap now with SVG-esque. He can go out and do it however many laps this race is, I don't even know. So I feel like our race car is really good. Our McDonald's Toyota Camry is really good here in the heart of Chicago, headquarters for them. So it's always a special weekend for them. Yeah, we got speed. I feel good. When I feel good at a road course, you know it's a good day.
Yeah, you are feeling good. Hey, quickly, long run, you guys ran a lot of laps. What was the biggest change between lap 2 and lap 15 or whatever you ran?
Yeah, just rhythm for me. I come here the last 2 years, and I chase the 45, and I never know where my marks are by the time the race starts. I'm just trying to lay a fast lap down on lap 25. And so Freddie told us we were P1, and I just went into cruise mode. And I'm like, all right, let's figure out the rest. So we'll see how it translates over to tomorrow, but no free lunch. Got to go out and get it.
That's right. Bubba Wallace, so far so good. Big smile on his face. He mentioned a big weekend for McDonald's, also a big weekend for 2311, of course. The Jordan brand, big headquarters here. They've got a big party tonight, so hopefully he'll put on a good show for him.
Just the tone of his voice breeds optimism and breeds the opportunity that Bubba Wallace could walk away with this win tomorrow.
It could very well. Confidence is everything. And for Bubba Wallace here after this practice, that certainly will have them riding high as they were the fastest in practice. Right now we are qualifying. Noah Gragson has gone to the top of the leaderboard here early in Group 1 qualifying, 20 minutes on the board as we continue to watch these cars go around the course.
Well, we visited with Dave Mooney. We have visited with Kurt Becker about the landscape of Grant Park. Tim Califano, what about you at your end of the racetrack?
Well, we're looking at the backside, technically, of this racetrack, and there's a lot to see in this section. We're looking at turns 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, but in between all those twists and turns are a lot of big landmarks. One of them that stands out to me, just past drivers left as the individuals are exiting turn number 7, that is the Hilton Chicago, which of course is a famous hotel. There's been many things that have happened at that Hilton Chicago in history. It has also been in some famous movies. So that's right at drivers left as they're turning off onto South Michigan Avenue in turn 7. Then they race north, headed down South Michigan Avenue into East Congress Plaza Drive. The reason why it's called East Congress Plaza is because right in the middle of turn 9, that's where the Congress Hotel stands. There are viewing sections for the fans all around this area of the course. To drivers right, there is a purple Xfinity mobile barrier that is put against the left side of that section as the drivers are winding their way again through turns 9, 10, and 11. Then once they jump out onto South Michigan Avenue once again, heading down turn 11, there is a nice viewing section for the fans that can really see the drivers attack this last major corner before heading to turn number 12. And the reason why I say that is because in turn 11, it is extremely bumpy, and it's a heavy braking zone for the drivers. So as they swing their way out of turn number 10, they're trying to carry as much speed as they can before they get to the right-hander in turn 11. As they're applying the brake pedal, the car is bouncing up and down over these city streets that are maybe 2, possibly 3 lanes wide. So it's very narrow in this section, but there is plenty to see and plenty to take in on this side of the course.
Trouble a moment ago, gentlemen, for Corey Heim, who came through turn number 4 here during qualifying, carried a lot of speed through that right-hander coming off Lakeshore. When he got onto East Roosevelt Road, the momentum of the car carried it out to the left. He bounced it off the concrete, the Jersey barriers to drivers left, and then continued on his way.
Corey Heim, the slowest of the 13 on the track right now, a minute 32.932, and also having some challenges in front of Kurt.
And Corey Heim is an open car. He had to qualify in on speed, so we'll find out exactly how significant the damage is on that machine, but that could be a devastating blow if he's not able to go back out and get quicker.
Fastest car to the top of the leaderboard, Will Brown. Australian V8 Supercar defending champion, making a run here for Colleague Racing tomorrow in the Grant Park 165. He has gone to the top of the leaderboard. Todd Gilliland second. Riley Herbst, Ross Chastain, Cole Custer, the Fast 5, as we've got 12 minutes to go here in Group 1.
Yeah, there is really a lot going on. And you heard all of our turn announcers mention the cars bouncing around out there. There is an awful lot of that because these are typical city streets that get used, and clearly they freeze in the winter with the cold here, but it's hot today. Temperatures in the mid-90s, high humidity, so they go through a lot of temperature swings here as well. You and I and a lot of us, Dave and Ryan Horn, our producer, Tim and Kurt, we all took a little walk around the park some earlier today. You know, adjacent to the front straightaway, right behind the grandstands, is Buckingham Fountain. We amused that we would like to stuck a toe in there. It's hot out there today.
More than a toe.
We would jump in the old fountain out there, but we wouldn't have been able to be here on the broadcast if we actually did that. But Buckingham Fountain, if you don't know what that is, if you remember the old TV show Married with Children, that's the fountain that they prominently used in their open. It was in the movie National Lampoon's Vacation as well. Historic fountain right here, right behind the front straightaway.
Uses 15,000 gallons of water per minute. Let's pick up Ryan Blaney right now. He exits turn 12. He is on a heater right now as he races across the start-finish line towards Dave Moody in turn 1.
Here comes Blaney down the front straightaway, past those main grandstands, down shifting, hard 90-degree left-hand turn number 1. Executed perfectly, right up next to the safer barrier on exit. Now changes lanes to driver's left, arcs his way into turn 2, and off turn 2, headed for 3.
Here's Ryan Blaney now. He comes back on to Lakeshore Drive. The quick right-hander, turn number 3, swings the car out to driver's left. Now under braking and down shifting, he goes back to turn number 4, quickly through the right-hander, across the short chute. He's already through turn number 5. Once again, he is headed back northbound toward turn 6.
Right back at us now as he heads downhill, down through that long straightaway. Already on the brakes, already down shifting. A nice smooth line, skirts the wall on the inside, skirts the wall on the outside on exit, and he's headed for 7.
Following Ryan Blaney now, making his way to turn number 7, pops into view, coming on to South Michigan Avenue, now starts that long, winding spiral through turns 9, 10, and 11 in East Congress Plaza. Ryan Blaney keeping his car very close to the Jersey barriers on either side, working his way to 10 or 11, now off of turn 11 and headed to turn 12.
So as Ryan Blaney makes his lap, Shane Van Gisbergen is on the race course as well. First qualifying lap for Van Gisbergen. Exits turn 2, heads down into turns 3 and 4 as he gets set for that run down there. See how he can negotiate. Shane Van Gisbergen on the course, headed to Kurt Becker.
Yeah, Shane Van Gisbergen, keep in mind in practice, he had some difficulty on this end of the layout at the southeastern corner of the course. Heading into turn number 4, he overshot the corner, did not damage the car, managed to get back underway. This time through, though, Dave, he is flawless off turn 5.
He is flawless coming off 5 and down the hill now, headed for turn 6. Takes it all the way next to the wall on driver's right, trying to straighten out that left-hand turn number 6. Very briefly off the hammer. Now back up through the gearbox. Shane Van Gisbergen with Daniel Suarez in hot pursuit as they head for turn 7.
Both those cars now exit turn number 7. Daniel Suarez maybe 2 or 3 car lengths behind Shane Van Gisbergen. They're in turn 9 right now in the middle of East Congress Plaza. Shane Van Gisbergen in his white and black Chevy leading Daniel Suarez now in the run down to turn 11. They both clear it perfectly and head to 12.
So Shane Van Gisbergen passes the alternate start-finish line, and Shane Van Gisbergen goes to the top of the leaderboard. His lap that you just heard described here on MRN, the fastest of everybody. Looks like Daniel Suarez has just gone to the second spot as well.
Well, he has now been bypassed by Ryan Blaney. It's a Van Gisbergen, Blaney, Suarez trio as they work their way around the course with Will Brown and Todd Gilliland rounding out the top 5. Let's check in at SVG's pit.
Shane Van Gisbergen cued the radio before they even told him what his lap was. He used an explicit word we will not use, but he said he messed up the lap, and he wants a breather before he goes and does a true qualifying lap. So he said he messed up the end of the lap is what he was worried about, and then they told him you were P1, and he said, I'm going to take a breather, take one lap here just to catch my breath, and then go on another flyer to see if I can do even better.
Wow, if that was a messed up lap, that was an impressive one. We got a new driver that's gone to the top of the leaderboard. Chase Briscoe has gone to the top. The Indiana native now takes his Bass Pro Shops Tracker Boats Toyota to the top of the leaderboard. Mr. Pole Position winner here in 2025. He's got more than anybody. See if that time will be able to hold up for the rest of the session.
Let's check in with Corey Heim, who's with Chris Wilner.
Mike, the open battle drama is starting to heat up with those cars trying to qualify their way into tomorrow's race, and one of those is Corey Heim, of course, who has Booty Barker, his crew chief, former crew chief for Bubba Wallace. The incident on the racetrack where he slapped the rear of the car, they think the toe link might be bent. Not broken, but bent. But obviously they have to qualify. Corey's been anxiously asking, what's the lap time I have to beat? Currently they're racing, but one of the open cars, I believe it's going to be on this timing sheet, the Josh Balicki machine. They're saying you're 4/10 still slower than Josh Balicki. If you can find 4/10 with a wounded race car, you'll be in the show. They just sent him back out, cooled that Toyota down for 2311 Racing, but now Corey Heim has the monumental task of taking a wounded race car, trying to qualify into the show.
It's a one-off deal here this weekend for that extra 2311 car and driver Corey Heim. So, yeah, you got nothing to lose. If you stay back there, you're not going to get into the race. You're already the slowest of the open drivers to this point. So you got to go back out there and grit this out. We're getting ready to find out what kind of driver Corey Heim really is. We know he's a great driver with all the wins he's got in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series and being on retention to be a fill-in driver in the Cup Series. Corey Heim's talented, but this is a big, big ask.
But here's the challenge. They just told him he needs to make 4/10 up. When he goes to get that 4th tenth, you may not be bringing that car back in one piece. So we'll follow up on Corey Heim here in a moment.
Shane Van Gisbergen back on the track. We heard the report. They needed to just cool it down, let him get back out. Steve Post reported. Now Shane Van Gisbergen as the WeatherTech Chevy working its way through Congress Plaza down towards Tim Cattle Famo.
Shane Van Gisbergen now under braking into turn number 11 through the right-hander, bounces his way over the curbs and heads to turn 12.
And he goes to the top of the leaderboard. The first driver in sub-90-second territory. 1:29.656 seconds, 88.338 miles an hour. He was given a moment to catch his breath, let the car regroup, and he powers to the top of the leaderboard.
Steve Post, I would say that he had a chance to kind of collect himself and go back out and accomplish the mission.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It was fascinating. When he cued the radio the first time, we just reported on this, he said he messed up, of course, used a different word. When he went across the stripe, the scoring, the time there at the end, he literally cued the radio and said, hell yeah. And the crew said, yeah, you're right about that. You set quick time. So not only did he set quick time, he knew he nailed the lap as well. Shane Van Gisbergen to the top of the speed chart. I think he knocked nearly a second off from the lap around the racetrack.
Corey Heim is on a flyer right now. He's in front of Kurt Becker.
Here he comes off the end of Lakeshore. He cranks it up. Now has to slow to go down through turn 4, through turn 5, and he's once again back onto South Columbus.
Here he comes down the hill now, heading towards 6, and he's got some work to do. Corey Heim all the way out to driver's right. Now decelerating, downshifting, back on the hammer at the exit of turn number 6. Inches away from the outside safer barrier. He crosses the hill and heads for 7.
Corey Heim with those flashy numbers on the sides of his Toyota Camry now works his way into East Congress Plaza Drive. Corey Heim has the track all by himself for the moment. There is no traffic around him. He clears turn number 10, gets a little bit loose coming into turn number 11, now sets up for the corner, works his way out of it, and is now back on the throttle.
Corey Heim needed 0.4 of a second, Alex, and he will not get it on that lap.
No, he's just off on that particular circuit. So Corey Heim, a valiant effort, certainly still has time. 2 minutes and 50 seconds remain here for the Group 1 qualifiers.
I think he just used that car up. He was in full sling mode on that lap. Now, on the racetrack, Christopher Bell, we heard from him a moment ago, had some concerns about the car. Question is, what does he have now? He's headed to 1 and Dave Moody.
Here he comes into turn number 1, hugs that inside wall, just inches off that concrete safer barrier, dirt tracks his way through turn number 1. He's headed for turn number 2, that 90-degree right-hander, and he splits out onto the back straightaway.
On to Lakeshore Drive, Christopher Bell with the red and black Toyota, got the blackout hood treatment on his Camry as he comes back into corner number 4. Christopher Bell under braking now and downshifting, works his way through that hard right-hander. Across East Roosevelt he goes. He's off turn 5. Christopher Bell setting sail up South Columbus.
Down the hill he comes on South Columbus now. If he's going to give a run at Shane Van Gisbergen, he's going to have to do something pretty special here. He comes in at turn number 6. Late on the braking, locks up the left front momentarily. He's through turn 6 on his way up over the hill to turn 7.
Christopher Bell finishing his run down East Balbo Drive, now on the South Michigan Avenue. Bell now into the right-hander in turn number 8. He now turns the wheel from the right to the left into turn number 9. Bell now halfway through that long corner, gets a little bit loose, has to back out of the throttle. He's through turn 10, bumping his way down to turn 11. He clears that corner as as well.
He was 9th. Let's see where he ends up right now as Will Brown goes off course in turn 4. Christopher Bell will flash by the alternate start-finish line and will stay in the number 9 position. So no improvement while Joey Logano is back on the track with 1 minute to go in Group 1 qualifying.
Joey Logano working out turn 5, headed down to turn 6. Right now, Logano is facing 1 minute left on the ticker, as it were, getting to the end of Group 1 qualifying, and we'll see what Joey Logano, what kind of numbers he can put up on the board. He's not really been a factor so far in this practice session or this qualifying session.
No, he is not, but he's going to stand on the brakes right now, bring his machine up off of the corner. Let's see what he can do here as he gets back around to the alternate start-finish line. There's a handful of drivers still on the track right now trying to improve down to the final 25 seconds or so remaining as we got a car that's off the pace and a bit of a problem. Another car has caught the wall.
Noah Gragson, Alex, he is in turn 6, and they have knocked the rear end completely askew in that machine. He is just going to have to limp his way back to pit road. Severe damage on the rear end of that car.
And he just told us before he went to qualify, the last thing he wanted to do was create more work for the team. He didn't want to have any problems. He's got problems big time. That is going to warrant, it looks like there's something wrong with the rear end of the race car.
Yeah, there's very little scuffs on the corner of the car. It almost looks like a suspension failure, maybe a loose wheel, something of that nature, because there's just barely a nick on the paint on that race car. No damage on the left rear corner where that problem is.
If indeed there's a loose wheel, the last thing you want is for that thing to wobble around there and do more damage than it's already being done. But there is clearly some sort of damage on the left rear suspension of that Ford Mustang. And I agree. We have the ability to watch it on NASCAR TV. He has some slight scuff marks on that right quarter, or on the left rear quarter panel, but that's where the wheel's wobbling around and whatnot. He's just trying to limp it back. Right now, he appears to be going into turn 11 to 12, and he'll bring that car back on the pit road here in just a moment.
So he'll get that back, and the team will diagnose the issue there. With that is qualifying for Group 1 has wrapped up. Practice and pole qualifying for the Chicago Street Course is brought to you on MRN by E3 Spark Plugs. Stuck in slow motion? Unleash the NASCAR fire inside your engine with E3 Spark Plugs. Forget pit stops, too. E3 gives you maximum fuel efficiency for more miles on the road and less time at the pump. E3 Spark Plugs. Power, speed, domination. Get yours today.
From the NASCAR Chicago Street Race, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
80 million listeners depend on AM radio to always be on, delivering news, sports, talk, traffic, and weather reports you can trust. AM radio also delivers vital emergency information when you need it most. Text AM to 39179. Tell Congress to pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act to keep AM radio in cars.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
The thrills of NASCAR racing from over 55 years of Motor Racing Network broadcasts.
Bobby Allison brings the race car right down in the middle of the track, crosses the start-finish line, and he will win the 24th Annual Daytona 500.
Bill Elliott wins the Hooters 500. Alan Kulwicki, 1992 champion.
MRN Classic Races.
And in the whole pack, steaming for the finish line, Dale Earnhardt wins a Winston 500.
Find all the classic moments on MRN Classic Races on any podcast platform.
Back at Chicago, qualifying for Group 1 cars is complete. Chase Briscoe is second, right behind Shane Van Gisbergen. Buddy Boy is with Chris Wilner.
And his bid for a 5th pole will have to wait, but I tell you what, Chase, that's a daunting task when you have to go up against SVG in qualifying, but did you get every ounce of speed out of your Camry today?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, I felt like a good lap. There's definitely room that I could have improved. The back half of the lap, like the last 2-3 corners, I definitely felt like I gave up a little bit, and that's where he probably beat me the most. I don't think I still would have beat him by any chance, but I think I could have been within, 3/10 probably. So, yeah, proud of the effort by our Bass Pro Shops Toyota team. That's what we need to do is put yourself in position for tomorrow, and track position is going to be really challenging. So, yeah, proud of just the lap in general. Could have been a lot worse for sure. So yeah, just see what we got tomorrow now.
You mentioned the back half of the lap. I know turn 10 is a handful. Just how much are you fighting? It seemed like there's almost maybe a moment of lift in the front end of the car.
Yeah, I mean you're bouncing all over the place. It's I feel like qualifying here is the most intense, most on the edge thing you do all year. Just there's no margin for error. If you when we go to Sonoma next week, if you miss a corner, you just go into the dirt or whatever. Where here, you just hit the wall. So it's fun from the driver's side when you feel like you somewhat execute it. And yeah, just see what we got tomorrow. It's a long race tomorrow. It's obviously going to be hot out too. So yeah, the cars are a handful. This is the least amount of grit by a mile we've had here. So it's going to be fun tomorrow.
Go cool off.
Yeah, thank you.
Chase Briscoe, a solid qualifying effort, second in that group here this afternoon.
Fast, yes, but to his point, Mike, it's a risk versus reward because we've seen a lot of drivers get into the wall and create big problems for themselves.
I liked what he said about this is the most challenging qualifying session. The slipping of the tires, how slick they are. You're really trying to maximize, to your point, risk versus reward. Let's get all we can. But don't step over that line. We've already seen drivers step over it so far.
Yeah, we have. As Group 1 drivers have wrapped up, getting set for Group 2 drivers will go on the track here in just a moment. Fastest of everybody by a long way is Shane Van Gisbergen. Steve Post.
Shane Van Gisbergen down here cooling off. Shane, I listened to your radio. You had one qualifying lap you weren't all that happy with and came back and got a good lap. Did you get everything in that second lap? How comfortable are you with that second qualifying lap you made?
It's pretty good, but I think the track just improves on a street circuit. It gets better and better. But yeah, really happy. WeatherTech Chevy's really good. My first lap was a good banker, and then just did like a slow lap, thought about it, thought where I could improve, and then second lap we got the most out of it, I think. So yeah, good improvement by the guys. They changed the car a little bit, and yeah, it was pretty good.
Okay, how good are you at waiting? Because now we've got this second segment. Are you a good waiter?
Yes and no. Thankfully, I've got a good distraction in the Xfinity race, so my mind's already switched over to that and thinking about the race this afternoon.
There we go. Shane Van Gisbergen. He is right now, after group number 1, the quick time.
Control what you can control. And he controlled his race car to the top of the leaderboard. Now he can just sit and wait and see what everybody else is going to do. By the way, he won pole position also for the NASCAR Xfinity Series race. You can hear that live right here on MRN. Coming up at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, the Xfinity Series running the Loop 110. From the NASCAR Chicago Street Race, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Are you ready for sights, sounds, and speed that'll shake you to your core? To see NASCAR stars like Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin, and Ross Chastain attack the asphalt? Are you ready to make memories that'll last a lifetime? Yeah? You ready? Then we got one more question. What are you waiting for? To experience the thrill of a NASCAR race in person, visit NASCAR.com/tickets.
The Tough Trucks of NASCAR, an exclusive podcast from the Motor Racing Network.
Ron Hornaday, green flag is in the air, and he will take the field quickly to turn 1.
Relive the moments of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series from its debut in 1995.
Checkered flag in the air, Skinner wins with the inaugural for the NASCAR Truck Series by Craftsman.
The legends of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
Todd Bodine wins 4 in a row on super speedways.
The Tough Trucks of NASCAR, available on podcast platforms and MRN.com.
Track is open for Group 2 qualifications here in Chicago, Illinois, as they begin to roll out onto the circuit. There is one open car in Group 2, and that is Catherine Legg. She has to beat the time in just one lap is all it's going to take for Catherine Legg to be in the race. She's got to beat the time of Corey Heim, who is the slowest of those drivers right now who are trying to get into this race. One team will miss the race.
Of course, Corey Heim having damage to his race car. If he is able to make the race, teams will need to make repairs to that Toyota Camry. Alex mentions Group 2 pulling onto the racetrack right now. They're all coming up to speed quite slowly. Matter of fact, clearing turn 2, making their way up to Sable Lakeshore Drive. And the first car on the hammer is Ty Gibbs, headed to Kurt Becker.
Here he comes now, full song on Lakeshore. Now he has to go under braking because here's turn number 4. Turns the car back toward turn 5. He slips a little bit up off of the corner, straightens course, and he's headed now to turn 6.
Ty Gibbs coming coming off a very strong effort in Mexico City a couple of weeks ago. Didn't get the strategy and the cautions he needed late, but he's got a fast race car. Downshifts into turn number 6. The hard left-hander leaves himself a little bit of wiggle room on exit as he heads for 7.
Ty Gibbs racing through the downtown streets here in Chicago, makes the turn off of Balboa now onto South Michigan Avenue. He's got a bunch of traffic that is behind him. As a matter of fact, all those cars now starting to enter East Congress Plaza Drive. Here is Ty Gibbs racing down to turn number 10, the right-hand corner. Gibbs has got maybe 5 car lengths over Alex Bowman. Gibbs is through 11. So is Bowman. So is Austin Dillon.
So these cars now coming through turn number 11 into turn number 12, crossing that alternate start-finish line, a very important piece of property.
Yeah, because that is going to begin their flyer lap right now. Ty Gibbs at full speed headed to turn 1.
Ty Gibbs has led laps in each of the previous 2 Chicago street races. He'd love to do the same tomorrow afternoon. On the hammer now. Through turn number 1, swings all the way to the driver's left, trying to straighten out turn number 2. He's headed for the back straightaway.
In his black and green Toyota, Ty Gibbs now approaching turn number 3 and gets ready to work his way through that right-hander. He continues on his way on DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Here he comes into turn number 4. Negotiates the right-hander. The car gently moves out to driver's left. He swings it down through turn number 5, and he is once again northbound on South Columbus.
Here he comes down the hill now, headed for turn number 6, and he's got a pretty good lap going. Those cars that were in his rear view mirror a lap ago have fallen back a good 12 to 15 car lengths. This time he's all the way out to the safer barrier, taking every inch of racetrack he can. Ty Gibbs on the flyer lap.
Ty Gibbs really hustling his black Toyota around the twists and turns of this course. Gibbs now in turn number 8, has clear racetrack out his front windshield, goes to turn number 9, now into turn 10. Ty Gibbs hard on the brakes, setting up for turn 11, downshifts and powers up off the corner.
As Ty Gibbs comes across the line, he will not knock off Shane Van Gisbergen. Good lap, though. He'll go to 4th. Chris Buescher with a great lap. He'll go to 3rd. We need to pick up right now on the course, Mike, driver Catherine Legg. She's trying to get into the show.
Let's pick her up on the course. She's working her way around the course right now through turn number 7. Matter of fact, she's setting herself up to run through Congress Plaza and to the feet of Tim Catalfamo.
Here is Catherine Legg now into view in turn number 10. Her baby green Toyota, or Chevrolet Camaro, I should say, exits the corner and heads to 12.
So Catherine Legg, will see where her time stacks up. Needs to beat the lap of Corey Heim. She is not going to be able to do it on this particular lap. So we'll see if she elects to stay on course or come off the track and cool things down just a bit. She is going to stay on the circuit, it looks like, for Catherine Legg. As a matter of fact, she now exits and heads to turn number 2. Catherine Legg in the Elf Cosmetics Chevrolet, as she works her way up the back straightaway towards Kurt Becker.
Last time by, Catherine Legg attacked turn number 4. She's determined. That's a section of the course where it can be pretty tricky. It's very narrow getting off of Lakeshore and onto East Roosevelt Road. Same situation this time by. Dave, if she doesn't make it on time here today, it will not be for lack of effort.
Yeah, Catherine Legg is going to give it everything she's got here. She's charging down the hill toward turn 6. The Austin Dillon machine is dead ahead. He is not up at speed. He's just getting ready to start on a flyer lap. Catherine Legg with a pretty good run through turn number 6. She'll spread out to the left-hand side, bypass the Austin Dillon car as she heads for 7.
Catherine Legg has already had a very adventurous afternoon this day here in Chicago. Catherine Legg now into turn number 8, all by herself, trying to give her Camaro as much as she can and get as much speed out of the car as she hustles her way through turn 10, down into turn 11. Catherine Legg headed back to the start-finish line.
Here comes Catherine Legg. Can she put up a lap faster than Corey Heim? No, she cannot. So right now, Heim is safe, damaged race car and all.
Yeah, that lap for Legg was faster than her first opportunity, though. She understands there's still time to go. She did hit the wall just a bit with the left front corner of her race car out on the circuit, so she's going to have some damage coming up off of turn number 7 to the Eyes, Lips, Face Chevrolet.
Here she comes now around the course. She is closing in on the backside of the course, headed to Kurt Becker. She's going to give it one more go, Kurt. She's giving it all she's got.
Here she comes again, and she works her way off turn number 3. Off the end of Lakeshore Drive. Under braking, downshifting, into turn number 4 she goes, across East Roosevelt, makes it another right-hander. That one turn 5, of course, and she is on her way up South Columbus.
This is going to have to be the best lap of her weekend if she hopes to make this race. She comes charging downhill into turn number 6, where she got in trouble earlier. Deep entry this time, all the way to the safer barrier on exit. That was a pretty good run through turn 6 for Catherine Legg.
Watching Catherine Legg now turn off of turn number 7 in her Elf Chevrolet, now headed into East Congress Plaza Drive. Catherine Legg again trying to give this car one last effort, trying to make the show tomorrow here in downtown Chicago. Catherine Legg now turns off of Congress on the South Michigan Avenue. Now on the East Jackson Drive goes Catherine Legg.
Trying to knock the car of Corey Heim back, and let's see what Catherine Legg can do. She did it! Catherine Legg did it on her 3rd lap. Just barely beats Corey Heim, and Catherine Legg, with a valiant qualifying effort, will be in the Grant Park 165. Corey Heim will miss the race.
BJ McLeod Motorsports rejoicing as we speak. While Catherine bumps Corey Heim out, Ryan Priest has just taken his RFK Ford Mustang to position number 3.
Let's check in with Dave Moody. Dave?
Well, he did that just as Catherine Legg was coming across the start-finish line to record that lap. Kyle Larson got too hot into turn 6, locked up all 4 corners, slid side saddle into the tire barrier at the exit of turn number 6. Hard to tell from our vantage point how much damage was done. Took him a moment to refire, but he did drive away.
And there's trouble in turn 11. Bubba Wallace has spun right into the oncoming view of the Zane Smith Ford Mustang. They were able to get clearly through the section, but Wallace, when he came into turn 11, had the back end of the car spin. It's a blind corner for those drivers going down into 11. They cannot see on East Jackson Drive. That was almost a close call for all the traffic that was around Bubba Wallace a moment ago.
So Bubba Wallace will take his car immediately to pit lane, catch his breath, regroup, and go back out and try to give it another shot. But Steve Post, Catherine Legg, what a qualifying effort. She's going to be in the race.
Listening to the radio, you just realize how elite and how hard these athletes that run NASCAR cars do. Listening to Catherine Legg, it was really quiet on the radio for the first 2 laps there. They just read her time and told her that's not good enough. The last lap, I think the time was 36. They said 36. And she came off the final corner, and she says, "Is that good enough?" And they said, "Yes, you're in." And there was silence, and then she might have gotten real emotional in the car. She said, "Guys, I fought so hard." And then there was another pause, and a couple of guys said, "Nice job." And then she said, "I hate that I wrecked the race car or dinged up the race car." And David Ingram, the crew chief, cued the radio and said, "Catherine, you did a good job. We can fix the race car. More important than anything else, we're racing tomorrow here in Chicago." So I just love the story of athletes and trying to perform whatever level they're at, running at the front of the field or trying to scratch and claw your way in. Catherine Legg, on her words, "I fought so hard," and she gets to race here tomorrow.
She definitely stepped up on that last lap, and she has punted Corey Heim out of this race. As things sit right now, it looks like that Catherine Legg will be racing tomorrow. On the racetrack right now, we mentioned Bubba Wallace spinning a moment ago. We've got an update on Alex Bowman coming, and the rest of qualifying still remains. Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification on the Motor Racing Network. Motor Racing Network is in the streets of Chicago with the NASCAR Cup Series. Qualifying for the Grant Park 165 is about to wrap up. Mike Bagley here alongside Alex Hayden, Dave Moody, Kurt Becker, Tim Catalfamo in the corners, Steve Post and Chris Wilner in the pits and garage areas. If you're just tuning in, it's all Shane Van Gisbergen who sits atop the leaderboard. Michael McDowell has just gone to second with Tyler Reddick in third, Chase Briscoe fourth, Kurt Busch make that Kyle Busch in the fifth position. Less than 9 minutes remain.
Brad Keselowski, a problem on the race course, went for a big spin. He's been able to right that car, just backed it into one of the tire packs with the left rear corner and basically kicked him back into play. Grabs gear and will drive on. The Michael McDowell going to second lap, Mike, that's big to me because he did that on his very first lap. where Shane Van Gisbergen's fastest lap was his third lap. McDowell's going to stay on the course and try to dig. Let's see if Michael McDowell has anything for Shane Van Gisbergen.
Let's pick him up on the course.
Just exiting turn 2 and out onto DuSable. Let's send him down to Kurt Becker.
Here he comes now. Michael McDowell has to negotiate turn 3. Again, that's just a quick kink along this back straightaway, if you will. Here's McDowell now. He is under braking, comes off of Lakeshore. He is through turn 4 just as quickly. He is off turn number 5. Michael McDowell works his way back toward Dave Moody.
For many years now, one of the premier road course racers in the NASCAR Cup Series. Long haul down the hill into 6. Late braking, late downshift, skirts the inside barrier. That's as good a turn 6 as we've seen this afternoon for Michael McDowell.
Michael McDowell, one of the veterans at Spire Motorsports and a veteran on the road courses, doing his best effort to give this car a good qualifying effort this afternoon. Michael McDowell now into East Congress Plaza Drive. That's turn 8, turn 9. Now races his way down to turn 10. His DePaul Chevrolet Camaro setting up for turn 11. He's hard on the brakes and clears that corner.
So he makes his way up through the alternate start-finish line. Not quite good enough to knock Shane Van Gisbergen off the top of the leaderboard. One driver that's elated. No, not a pole speed, Steve Post, but we'll be racing tomorrow.
What a scene down here. I mean, Ross Chastain just came up and gave her a hug. Catherine Legg down here. Catherine, you described how hard you worked, how hard you worked on this. What does it mean to you to get yourself locked into this race and have to just do what you just did?
It's actually a lot of pressure. I was thinking about this. You know, BJ said, you've done the Indy 500, you have to qualify in there. And honestly, I feel like this is almost worse in a way, because there I have a level of comfort that I have some experience. Here it's trying to drive above and beyond, like straight away. I don't have any, I mean, we have 20 minutes to practice, so I don't have any real time to find my legs, and no pun intended, and get going on it. So it's an enormous relief, let me tell you. I'm super proud of the guys. I messed up in practice and I put it in the wall, and then in my qualifying lap I think I touched the wall about 3 times just trying to put it in the show. So we're in. They've got some work to do now, unfortunately, my bad, but I'll probably do what I've done in all of the stock car races I've done this year, and that is like take the first stage to learn, get a bit better in the second one, and then last one I would be pretty decent, I hope.
What does it mean to you? Ross Chastain just come over. There's a bunch of crew guys. What does it mean to you, the respect factor of your competitors? What does that mean to have them congratulate you on this?
It means everything. You know, you can tell a lot about the character of the other drivers and the guys, whether you know them or not, just by the way they treat the other people in the paddock. And it is one of the nicest paddocks to be in. I think, I don't know very many people yet, but so far everybody's been super nice. And I raced with Ross like 2018, I think, when I did a couple of Xfinity races, and he was awesome then, and it hasn't, you know, he's still awesome now. If it was me, I think it would have gone to my head, but he's great. There are a bunch of them that have been really great, and I do really appreciate the support. I just appreciate the support of Chevy, and RCR have helped us a bunch, and I get to go and drive on the sim, and so things like that are invaluable, and they're making a big difference in the sport, you know, because when we bring the next young drivers up through, that's what's going to support them to get to the top of the grid.
It sure is, and runs like today are awful impressive. That is Catherine Legg. She'll be racing here tomorrow on the streets of Chicago.
And the significance of what she's just accomplished, Alex, is something that hasn't been done in 8 years outside of a Daytona 500. We've not sent cars home outside of a Daytona 500 since 2017.
It really is remarkable. That's a good shot of just how big this event is here, racing on the streets of Chicago, and how healthy the sport of NASCAR Cup Series racing is, quite frankly, as there are teams that want to be a part of it and want to come in. And it adds a heck of an element, though, doesn't it? And a lot of drama for qualifying to see who's going to be in and, unfortunately, who's going to be out.
4 minutes to go in qualifying. Shane Van Gisbergen leads Michael McDowell, Carson Hocevar, Tyler Reddick, and Chase Briscoe.
Well, we heard from the thrill of victory, if you will, with Catherine Legg making the race. The opposite side of that coin is the agony of defeat. And let's check in with Chris Wilner.
Yeah, the scene very somber down here in the 2311 pit for Corey Heim. Corey opting not to have a word with us, just trying to collect his thoughts. Booty Barker, the crew chief, just getting Corey to, really just try to compartmentalize what just happened. Corey's a fierce competitor. We know that. In the Craftsman Truck Series, he's used to winning. He's now in the championship hunt this year in 2025. But this is a big opportunity for Corey to show what he can do on the Cup Series level. And this was a big race for him with all his road course success. And you could just see the heartache on Corey Heim's face, the whole team. Corey, as soon as Catherine put up that lap, just dropped to his knees here in the pit box, and the rest of the team came around to support him. So if this doesn't show you what this means to Corey Heim and anyone else in this field, what it would be like to be a part of this race, that just showed you right there. So heartache for Corey Heim. We know he'll be back. Some scheduled races left with 2311, but certainly was eyeing as this his big shot here on his first road course start, but he'll have to wait till another opportunity.
It is difficult. It is. I mean, one extreme of emotion to the other. Kyle Larson just getting his lap in. He'll go to 14th on the board for Kyle Larson. Looks like he's going to stay on the track and continue to dig to try to get a little bit more. We're down to 2.5 minutes remaining here in qualifying for tomorrow's race.
After Bubba Wallace spun a few laps ago, or a few moments ago, I should say, immediately took the car back to pit road. They have just pushed him out, and he is on his warm-up lap right now. So as he comes up to speed in turns 6 and 7, when he crosses the alternate start-finish line out of turn 11, that's when his lap of record will begin. Right now, Bubba was able to put one lap in before that spin, and it's good enough for 38th of the 41 cars. However, Byron, Elliott, and Hamlin have never taken time. He is the slowest car on the property before that happened. Now, a lot of pressure on Bubba Wallace right now after being the fastest car in practice earlier.
If you're just joining us, 3 drivers are not qualifying, and they are big names in the sport of NASCAR racing. Denny Hamlin blew an engine on the opening lap of practice. They're having to change it. He's not qualifying. Chase Elliott and William Byron both hit the wall in practice. Damage to their cars. They're going to try to repair those cars, but could not get that done before qualifying. So William Byron, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin will start at the back of the field. And Chris Wilner, another Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet, while out on the course as we speak, and Alex Bowman, he is qualifying, but it doesn't necessarily matter on his starting spot.
No, it won't. It will not stand for Alex Bowman. In his practice session, the third Hendrick driver to have issues did make contact with the wall and broke a toe link. The team decided to go ahead and fix it and qualify the car. Now, the big reason there is to see what they have for tomorrow and get some laps on this car. But the detriment to that is because they changed the toe link, that goes against NASCAR rules of making an unapproved adjustment before qualifying, and so this time will not stand. And although Alex has done a really great job in this session, being in the top 10 most of it, his time will not stand. And again, he will start at the rear of the field tomorrow. So Blake Harris, the crew chief, opting to go ahead and fix the damage and come out and at least use this qualifying session as a test session for tomorrow to see what they have. But certainly for Alex, I know he wanted to start at the front of the field, told us earlier it's all about qualifying. Well, he's going to have to pick off a lot of race cars tomorrow.
Bubba Wallace has gone on to the racetrack, Alex, and he's spun again. He's backed the car into the turn 2 tire pack, and the red flag has come out with 56 seconds to go.
Talk about a turn of events. Bubba Wallace was the fastest in practice of everybody. Twice now in qualifying, he's spun the car around. Now, Bubba Wallace, we have a red flag with 56 seconds to go in qualifying, is going to have to regroup and try to do it again, but on the same set of tires. You can't change tires in qualifying, so he spun twice on this set of Goodyears. He's going to have to go out and try to do another lap.
Let's get the thoughts of Michael McDowell, who sits second on the leaderboard.
Michael McDowell down here, and we're just getting the word, Michael, that qualifying is over, so you're going to start on the front row. Describe the lap. Did you get everything out of it, or are you regretting some portions of it?
Obviously, I didn't get enough. Yeah, I'm proud of everybody at Spire Motorsports. This DePaul University Chevy was close. I'm also bummed, though. To be that far off of SVG and be second is disappointing. But our car was really good in race trim, held on really good. And so we'll go back, we'll look at data, see what we could have done better, and reload, get ready to go for tomorrow. But today's race, we did not win, but we did okay. And we'll be ready to go for tomorrow.
5th last year, 5th at Mexico. What more do you need to do? The car that wins tomorrow, you're hoping is you. What do you need to do here tomorrow?
We just got to execute a perfect day and keep track position and no mistakes. potential chance of weather, so that's going to mix things up. Timing that just right, when you go to slicks, when you go to wets, all that stuff matters a tremendous amount. So, like I said, I focus on today, and then we'll worry about tomorrow. But, you know, we're in the game.
That is Michael McDowell, and yes, indeed, he is in the game. He will start second here tomorrow.
Yeah, Michael McDowell, great qualifying effort. As a matter of fact, Spire goes second and third, with Carson Hocevar being third. However, the man of the hour is Shane Van Gisbergen. Let's hear from him now.
Yeah, Shane Van Gisbergen getting his third career pole, his second of the season after winning pole at Mexico City. Shane, let's get out of the sun. It's hot out there, but what does this one mean to do it back at a place I know that means so much to you here on the streets of Chicago?
Yeah, it's crazy hot, so appreciate everyone sitting out in the sun, but had a really good time. Car was really good. Wasn't perfect in practice, and the guys here did a great job tuning it up, so stoked to get pole, especially by that much. I'm a pretty lucky boy getting to drive some great cars today.
There's so many differences this year with the new tire, how it'll race. What are your expectations tomorrow of how this street course will race, maybe compared to the last couple years?
I never race with expectations, especially in NASCAR. You just don't know, right? So we just have to prepare the best we can and try and execute tomorrow, and I'm sure a lot of stuff will happen.
Big smiles. Shane Van Gisbergen, third career pole as he gets his first here at the streets of Chicago.
He wins this pole by half a second. We'll give you the starting lineup in a moment. From the NASCAR Chicago Street Race, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Jeff Gordon wins the Daytona 500.
Jeff Gordon's rise to one of NASCAR's all-time greatest drivers was one like no other. Relive Jeff Gordon's journey to the NASCAR Hall of Fame with the exclusive MRN podcast, Jeff Gordon, A Colorful Career. 93 Cup Series wins, 4 Cup Series championships, and 3 Daytona 500 wins. A career rivaled by few others. Check out MRN's Jeff Gordon, A Colorful Career on podcast platforms and MRN.com.
Welcome to more.
Green flag is in the air.
More action.
Photo finish.
More awesome. More smoke. More sizzle. More soar. More roar. More friends. More family. Welcome to the one place where no matter who you are, you'll leave with something you'll never forget. Welcome to NASCAR.
Back at Chicago, qualifying for the Grant Park 165 is over, and Shane Van Gisbergen has scored the pole. He will lead the field to the green flag tomorrow. Michael McDowell will start second. Carson Hocevar third. Tyler Reddick fourth. Chase Briscoe will start fifth. Kyle Busch will start in 6th. Ryan Preece in 7th. Chris Buescher in 8th. Ty Gibbs 9th. And Austin Dillon had a good run. He'll start tomorrow in 10th.
Alex Bowman qualified 11th, but again, we'll start at the back of the field because of changing a toe link on the car. Joey Logano qualified 12th. Christopher Bell was 13th and Kyle Larson 14th. Brad Keselowski 15th. A.J. Allmendinger 16th. 17th was Ryan Blaney. Daniel Suarez 18th. You had the brown car came across the line. He'll qualify in position number 19, and Todd Gilliland 20th.
Riley Herbst will start tomorrow in 21st, Ross Chastain in 22nd, Cole Custer 23rd, Noah Gragson 24th, and John Hunter Nemechek in 25th, Zane Smith in 26th, Austin Cindric starts 27th, with Justin Haley in 28th, Josh Berry 29th, and Austin Hill in 30th.
31st, Josh Bilicki. 32nd, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 33rd, Catherine Legg. Starting 34th will be Eric Jones. 35th then will be Cody Ware. 36th, Ty Dillon. Bubba Wallace will start 37th, and then William Byron, Chase Elliott, and Denny Hamlin round out the field. They did not qualify. One driver misses the race, and that's Corey Heim.
We invite you to join us at 1 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. NASCAR Live Race Day on the air for the Grant Park 165. Don't forget, top of the hour, NASCAR Xfinity Series coverage coming your way. The Loop 110 at 4 p.m. Eastern. Our thanks to Dave Moody, Kurt Becker, Tim Catalfamo, who cover the action in the corners, Steve Post and Chris Wilner in the pits. For Alex Hayden, I'm Mike Bagley. Congratulations go to Shane Van Gisbergen, pole sitter for tomorrow's Grant Park 165 in the streets of Chicago.
Motor Racing Network's coverage of NASCAR Cup Series practice and pole qualifying for the Grant Park 165 has come to you from the Chicago Street Course. Presented on MRN by E3 Spark Plugs. Powerful and fuel efficient. Find E3 at your nearest auto parts store. Our coverage has come to you under an exclusive radio license granted by the Chicago Street Course to the Motor Racing Network, solely for the non-commercial use of our listening audience. Any use of the descriptions and accounts of this event without the express written permission of the Motor Racing Network is prohibited. Today's broadcast was directed by Ryan Horn. Broadcast engineer Steve Fridley. Studio engineer Andy Pachenik. Audio engineer Craig Moore. The president of MRN is Chris Schwartz. Follow NASCAR every day at MRN.com. This broadcast was a production of the Motor Racing Network.